So the second largest bank failure in U.S. history happened at 4 a.m. Clearly, they're trying to do it. Well, they want to do it before the markets opened, and they did it kind of out of sight of everybody. And I'm surprised it's not getting more attention. First Republic Bank was seized by the U.S. government and then sold off to J.P. Morgan with, I think it was $50 billion in federal financing, which is basically like, y'all are bailing them out again, as much as Biden's insisting you're not. So, look, I don't know what to tell you, man. There's some economists saying the dollar is doomed. I'm not here to give you any financial advice, but I think when you've had 3 of the largest banking failures in U.S. history within the span of a couple months, I don't know, maybe you should go seek some financial advice. Not from me, but I know I'm going to be making some moves because I'm kind of worried. What they're saying is that people panicked over First Republic, pulled their money out. Many of them actually went to J.P. Morgan. But my fear now is, I'm not an economist, but if JP Morgan's absorbing this dying bank, isn't that just going to get people scared that JP Morgan won't be able to handle it and then they'll pull their money out of there and then run somewhere else? Cascade effect. We'll see what happens. We got other big news. Vice is reportedly on the verge of bankruptcy.
No!
Holy crap.
Yeah! No!
Everybody's yelling already. And we got more news than that. Bud Light sales are now down an additional week by 21.4%. So it went 6, 17, and now 21. It just keeps getting worse. They've hired GOP aides. They're going to spend millions of dollars in marketing, all to avoid apologizing. How pathetic and spineless. But they're getting leftist groups coming at them now saying, you have to defend us and apologize to us. Let's see who they choose. Before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, head over to castbrewcoffee.com and pick up your, look at this, Cast Brew Coffee. And if you go to castbrew.com, it is our coffee brand. You can buy your Rise with Roberto Jr. breakfast blend, which is exactly what I'm holding right here. And with every purchase of Rise with Roberto Jr., you will receive a picture of Roberto Jr. Look at that. He's right there on the back. We've sold a lot of this. Apparently, everyone is just buying the Rise with Roberto Jr. and Appalachian Nights, but more so Rise with Roberto Jr. And I knew it because Roberto Jr. is a star. And I could tell that star power would translate to cold, hard cash. Sure enough, everybody is flocking at castbrew.com to pick up our delicious, look at that, look at this amazing bag. Isn't it really great? They're flocking there to pick up our amazing coffee. And you know what goes great with a nice hot cup of coffee is Jeremy's chocolate. That's right. She, her, not they don't pay me to do that. I just think it's funny every time I do. So go to castbrew.com and also head over to timcast.com, click that join us button, become a member, and hang out in our Discord server with like-minded individuals. And if you've been a member for at least 6 months or you sign up at the $25 per month level, you can submit questions and even call into our uncensored members-only Timcast IRL after show on the front page of timcast.com, 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday. We're going to have one of those up for you tonight with a very serious and dark issue, not so family friendly, so you don't want to miss it. So sign up at timcast.com. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, she has returned. It is Libby Emmons.
Hey, Tim, what's going on?
Welcome back.
Thanks. Glad to be around.
Who are you?
I'm Libby Emmons. I'm the editor-in-chief at the Post-Millennial and Human Events.
Right on. And of course, Shim Sham is back.
Good to be back, everybody. Good to have Libby here. Pretty sad about Vice. Just if we could take a moment of silence, I wish it was me instead. Really.
BuzzFeed, now Vice.
This is what's worth. Why do we need the dollar to be successful? What is worth purchasing, if not whatever it is those websites are selling?
We might have to crack out the Louis XIII.
Ooh, what's that? It sounds fancy.
It's extremely expensive cognac.
Oh, nice. Let's try it.
Let's give it a shot.
To celebrate Vice's bankruptcy.
I think we should give it a try.
They were already morally bankrupt, so
yeah,
let's
that's true.
See the finances match it.
I wonder how mad they will get, the people who work there, when they see a video of us pouring $5,000 cognac to celebrate their bankruptcy.
Well, we could just call it a wake.
Is that what we're doing it for?
Yeah,
listen, that's what Irish funerals are like. I have no idea if they're Irish, but we're ethnically Irish.
Well,
so
I don't drink anymore, but I
born
could
there.
not be more supportive of a celebratory toast for the demise of Vice.
We'll give you an energy, like a vitamin drink.
I'm saying you should
Phil's
drink.
also here,
Don't hold back on my
I just remember going to like Vice parties in New York like a million years ago.
Yeah, me too.
They were fun.
Well, anyway, we'll talk about it. We got Phil. He's hanging out.
Phil Labonte from All That Remains. How you doing? I'm the lead vocalist, anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. How you doing? And my buddy Serge is here.
What's up?
Oh!
His microphone's off.
I'm on mute like always. How you guys doing? Ready to start when you guys are.
Let's jump into this first story. I love this one. From the Hill. First Republic fallout. Democrats fume as regulators bail out yet another failed bank. What I love about this is that they're like, while Democrats aren't arguing the Biden administration should have let First Republic fail, many are concerned that the current spate of bank rescues point to financial stability concerns. I love it. Democrats basically coming out and being like, I can't believe they'd bail out another bank. I mean, we wanted them to do it, but we're so shocked that they did. And we're angry. Yeah, they wanted this to happen. They say the San Francisco-based regional powerhouse is the third major U.S. bank to fail and prompt a government administrative bailout of depositors following the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in March. It is the second largest bank collapse in U.S. history, eclipsing Silicon Valley Bank. I love this because it's like, no one seems to care.
It's like just another domino falling.
It's almost like it's not news that our banking system is collapsing. I wake up, it's 6 a.m. I look at my phone and I'm like, my eyes are like stuck shut. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I look at my phone and it's like the federal government seized First Republic Bank this morning and sold it to JP Morgan with $50 billion in financing from them. And I'm like, wait, what? At 4 a.m. they did this? Wow, it sounds like it's all falling apart. And then throughout the rest of the day, like no one's talking about it.
The first thing I saw was your tweet, and I was like, oh, we got to write about this right away. That was our first story out today.
And everyone was like, oh, wow, how about that? Do you guys hear Vice is going bankrupt? It's like, dude, our banking system is bankrupt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but Vice sucks.
That's also true. I mean, look, our banking
Both
system
things
sucks
are true.
too. Our banking system also sucks.
I guess the issue is like, we know the banks are failing, but what do we do?
I feel like
exactly.
I feel like everybody, that's kind of like the situation. Everyone knows, everyone's aware of how much money has been printed in the past 5 years, how much money they printed. It was, unprecedented amounts of money. We are basically ascribing to an unprecedented monetary policy. Modern monetary theory is essentially, it's a new idea.
Yeah.
It's not been tested. We don't know exactly how much stress the system can take. And so far, thankfully, things haven't gone terribly wrong, but there's no reason to believe that something can't happen tomorrow.
And a lot of the
everything fall apart.
And a lot of the money that got spent over the past few years got spent really willy-nilly.
Yep.
Like, I know that I remember in Washington State, a bunch of the money that went out that was like extra unemployment actually went to Africa. There was like a whole scam going on. They were like, oh, we're unemployed. Don't check our IP addresses. And nobody did.
Yeah. It's just First Republic got really into NFTs. And they got all those bored apes. I guess
bored apes and the
didn't
Donald
pan
Trump
out.
NFTs.
You know what they were really doing? Apparently, it's been reported. They were giving interest-only loans to ultra-wealthy individuals. They were just buying penthouses for rich people, and then like no money down.
Like BLM?
Seems like the Titanic hit the iceberg a long time ago, and the rich people have been extracting as much as they can to bail out as it's sinking to the ground.
I mean, that's
It's like 2,000 people left New York. 2,000 millionaires left New York.
It was like 250,000 people left Manhattan, which
then
is
it was
also
like,
higher income.
Yeah, and then it was like, but there were like actually 2,000 legit millionaires.
And then where do they go?
Or
Florida, I
ultra-millionaires.
guess.
A bunch of them went to Florida.
Yeah, New Zealand bunkers or something.
Yeah, just get the hell out.
They can get to Montana where they have the old nuclear silos.
Right.
And they're
Well, I got to give a shout out to Jim Cramer. He's undefeated.
Completely undefeated.
He has that tweet where he's like, First Republic, good bank.
He's like, everybody move to New York. Go over there. Pack your stuff up.
He said something positive about Bitcoin the other day, and I'm like, no, Jim, no, Jim, stop! What are you doing,
Oh
Kramer?
my gosh.
Well, no, maybe that's the one thing where it's like, maybe I'll move my assets. if he's recommended, I'm getting out because I don't know what's going on here. But maybe he's created the inverse Kramer effect, where they actually are good banks. But by him shouting it out, everyone panics and then pulls their money out.
He's like, I want to burn it all down.
He's just been studying the economy for years, and he sees the corruption in the system. I will be its reckoning.
Yeah, if he
behind the scenes, he's just calling these institutions out so people lose faith in them.
Yes.
He's actually, he's burning it all down.
If he'd have made that tweet in Mandarin, Bitcoin would have crumbled because the people in China would have understood. But
what I find really funny about this story is that there's a whole bunch of stories where it's like there is no banking crisis. Experts say it's all media nonsense, and don't worry, nothing bad's happening. And from March until 3 days ago, all of the news stories were there is no banking crisis.
Yep.
It's all being overhyped. And then 2 days before, the U.S. government seizes the second largest bank. It's the second largest collapse seized by the U.S. government. ABC runs a story saying, is the banking collapse over? And I'm like,
Right.
wait. Y'all were saying there was no banking collapse in the corporate media. And then right before this collapse, you're like, is it over? Well, answer was no. But here's my concern. JP Morgan gets $50 billion in federal financing. So basically, we are, maybe not the taxpayer, but we as regular people are all footing the bill because it's just tied to the FDIC is supposed to be for us. It's supposed to be insuring our money.
Right. And instead, they're using it to
Finance the sale
exactly.
to JP Morgan. But here's my thought process. It's just me. And I understand why people in media will just say like, everything's fine. Because they don't want to run on the banks. So recognizing that, I'm going to be completely honest. If I had money in JP Morgan, I would have gone first thing today and pulled it all out. All of it.
Every penny, huh?
Every penny, because JP Morgan just bought a necrotic multi-billion dollar asset
with 84 branches.
and with government financing, meaning the only reason they made this, the only reason this was possible is the government, because I'll just say the FDIC gave $50 billion in fixed rate financing. So JP Morgan was not capable of absorbing this without the federal government's intervention. So I'm kind of like, why should I believe they can rescue this failing
Well, and the other thing
bank?
too is the FDIC has said that they were going to put a new program in place to make banks pay more money for this bank bailout insurance fund. Like that's coming up too.
I think JP Morgan is not going to be able to handle it.
Well, are any of the banks going to be able to handle this kind of thing? And they're all going to be expected to pay into this new fund.
Right. The argument, I guess, was JP Morgan was saying that when people fled First Republic, they went to Chase and they brought that money with them. But imagine you're like on a sinking ship.
Right.
And you're like, quick, everyone jump to that ship.
Yeah.
And then the other ship is like, yeah, actually, we're that's part of our fleet too. And we're like connected to it. They're going to be like,
we don't have that many lifeboats.
We were running from that bank and now our money's right back with them.
I mean, at this point, it really is a situation where people are kind of on their own figuring out where the safe place is to go is, because there's got to be contagion from this bank or from the other banks that are going to be brought to JP Morgan. I assume JP Morgan is alleged to be able to handle it. The government is going to back it up. But again, what happens if something unprecedented happens? What if they
can only handle it because the FDIC gave them $50 billion.
Yeah.
A promissory note. So if JP Morgan could not do it on their own without government support, why would I assume they're going to be able to manage this properly?
Well, because the government will keep writing checks. So it's essentially you're betting on the U.S. government.
So why didn't the government just write a check to First Republic and keep them afloat?
I don't know exactly what the thought process was,
Yeah,
but
there's something else going on there.
Then
I
there's something.
imagine-
Then my issue there is, okay,
I think
if they're going to write a $50 billion check to JP Morgan, why not just write a $50 billion check to First Republic?
Because they don't want to because then it would be looked at as nationalizing the bank. If the government gives
They did.
I know, but I think
seized it.
I think it's going to be a situation of just they're going to say, oh, well, it's not nationalized because JP Morgan's running it, blah, blah, blah. Even though they're financing it or funding it, if the government just says we're taking over and we're going to send regulators from the SEC in or whatever the regulating body is, if they just send them in, then it becomes a situation where they're going to be like, no, it's government bank. Because that was the problem, or that was the concern back in 2008. They didn't want to have Goldman Sachs look like it was being owned by the government. And people are allergic to nationalizing.
They want someone, they want it to be taken over, but they want a private company to be the one doing it.
At the very least, so that way they can say that it's not nationalized. So they can say that the government didn't take over the bank.
If there's an ulterior motive, it just sounds like they're being shady. And once again, if I use Chase, I would be gone. That's just me. I mean, and I get it. The reason why people like Jim Cramer come out and they're like, everything's fine, even though it's not, is because they don't want to create the self-fulfilling prophecy where you go in the media, say everything's not fine, causing a run on the banks. So
well, that's
I don't want this
with
to
SVB,
collapse.
right? SVB was like Twitter conversation, and then there was a run on the bank.
Well, it's also
and First Republic was the same thing. When they started getting hit, people started pulling their money out, causing it to collapse.
Right.
I wonder if Occupy Wall Street activists are cheering this on right now. It's like everything they've ever wanted.
Well, they probably have all their money in Chase.
Yep. Well, Tim, I mean, like if I sat you down and I was like, Tim, everything's going to be okay. Do you understand? Everything's all right.
It's not your fault.
It's okay. Everything's fine. You'd be like, what's going to happen? I mean, what's going on? Whenever someone feels the need to reassure you,
It's like Goodwill Hunting. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. I'm thinking more.
Stop saying that.
Do you remember? Do you remember at the end of The Dark Knight when, not to spoil it or anything, but when Harvey Dent's like, have you ever told someone everything's going to be okay when you know it isn't? That's Jim Cramer right now.
Someone
It's like,
should
do you
make
have
that.
any idea what it's like?
Someone should make that meme where he's yelling at Jim Cramer, because that's literally what the dude has done.
I
Yeah,
never
man.
do that. I never say everything's going to be okay.
Based. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to be okay. I do know that
No,
if
like eventually we're all going to be dead. Like,
Yes!
it's not okay.
But that might, if you get to heaven, that's
when
okay.
That's when everything's actually okay.
right, when you can't, when
you know,
okay has
but-
no meaning.
Well, you have nothing to complain about.
But I mean,
Or-
like living a long and healthy life and dying of old age surrounded by loved ones
That's
is
okay.
okay.
no, that sounds great.
Right. So like everything will be
I
okay.
aspire to that kind of death. I hope.
I mean,
for it.
it's just the human experience,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I understand why everyone's coming out and saying it's going to be okay, but you got to understand the people who are saying that to you, they may claim to have noble reasons, but they're pulling their assets and they're putting it somewhere else.
But
They're
where are they
buying
putting it? Like,
China.
where do you put it? China.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like
Put
a
it in
safe
their
bet.
mattresses.
Eventually, we'll have some sort of like tariff situation. We won't be able to get our money out of there.
Yeah, for sure. But if you're rich, you're probably not going to worry about it. I mean, Panama,
Right.
El Salvador, they're probably buying tons of Bitcoin.
So-
like, I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin skyrockets. There have been predictions that a few months ago, several people were predicting that Bitcoin would hit $1 million soon.
Yeah.
And who was that? He's an economist or whatever, and he said it was going to hit $1 million, and he would make a bet with somebody that it would. Everybody said the amount of increase in Bitcoin due to him creating this narrative is going to cover any potential losses from giving away $1 million. So they didn't believe him. But the point he made was that the banks are insolvent. They're holding they're holding way more liabilities than they have assets, and they're unrealized losses. And as soon as this comes in the next few months, the dollar is going to collapse. Bitcoin's going to skyrocket. And then this happens. The second biggest collapse in U.S. history, happening with two other major collapses in the span of a couple months.
You know what's interesting is Chase, like J.P. Morgan in the first place back in like 1913 or something like that. He didn't, when there was like a run on banks, there was a run on local banks, and all the local banks had their money invested with regional banks, and the regional banks had their money invested with, banks in New York and everything. So when there was a run on the banks, the local banks, they couldn't get their money out fast enough to cover it, because it was all invested basically upstream. But JP Morgan thought that there should be a private banking back situation where like it was not nationalized at all, but all of the banks got together and basically created their own kind of, FDIC, but it was for the banks themselves and private. And instead it ended up being, you had like the Federal Reserve Act.
So someone chatted that Valley National Bank is also falling right now, and I just looked it up, and like it's in the news. They're starting to fall now. Minus 20%.
My goodness gracious.
Does anybody have a clear memory of what it was that made the average person realize that the banking crisis was happening in 2008? As far as I remember,
Bear
it was
Stearns, probably.
I thought it was
Was it Lehman? Wasn't it Lehman?
Well, Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns were banks that were involved, but I'm wondering what it was that made the average person. Was it because I thought it was because the companies like GE weren't able to get credit from other companies to make their payroll, and I'm wondering if there has to be a catalyst to make the average person aware if they're not. It's like if you don't have your money in any of these particular four banks, you kind of might just not really pay attention. Oh, a bank failed, and then go about your day, and it doesn't really affect you unless there's something that makes it go. Makes it become everyone's problem, and I'm wondering if anyone has any insight on that, what it was back in 2008, or if there's something.
I had very little money in 2008, so I don't remember it all.
Fair enough.
Speaking of having very little money, let's jump to our next story.
Well, hold on. This is not financial advice, but I'm going to buy a bunch of NFTs, print them out, and stuff them in my mattress. That's it.
That's a really clever idea.
Great idea.
Thank you.
That's brilliant.
Great idea.
The banks will
Good
never
luck.
get it.
Use the good picture paper too. The stuff like
The glossy stuff.
Exactly.
They will retain their value.
And
Yeah,
they're just different NFTs of your face.
Exactly. I'll make my own NFTs, drive the price down, buy them up, then stuff them in my mattress once the price point is high.
Because they're yours.
Not financial advice.
You just figure out what they're worth.
That's basically what Sam Bankman-Fried did.
That was literally it. That's brilliant.
basically what he
Not
did.
financial advice.
Let's jump to this next story. We have this from KOMO News. Bud Light sales continue to drop down 21.4% following trans activist partnership. The latest data released Monday by Bump Williams Consulting shows Bud Light sales for the third week in April were down 21.4% compared to the same time last year. The week before, sales were down 17%. It just keeps getting worse. Check this out. Competitors gain ground. Coors Light is up 20%. Miller Lite sales are up 21%. You know what that means? It means for every one Bud Light someone does not buy, they buy one Coors and one Miller.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of extra beer drinking.
They're like, I'm going to buy one of each. For every Bud Light you try to sell, I'm going to buy two of the other ones.
It's crazy that they're not buying good beer instead, but it's better than nothing.
I don't care what they buy as long as it's not Bud Light.
Amen.
The Human Rights Campaign, civil rights activist group for LGBTQ plus community, penned a letter to Bud Light demanding that they defend them. They say when
they were super drunk on Bud Light, right?
Stupid.
Like, this is an outrage. She's a beautiful woman.
So there was a bar in Indiana. There's a bar in Indiana that issued a statement saying, if you've got a problem with this, then you can leave.
Dude, you're in Indiana.
And then they came back a
that's a
week
pretty
later. They were
dumb
like,
move.
we didn't mean it. Please come back.
What we meant was you can leave a review on Yelp and come back on in, friend.
You can leave a big tip because we ain't doing that stuff anymore, man. We're done.
I love this story because we're winning. Mm-hmm. Bud Light is so desperate not to apologize. They're going to spend millions in marketing. They're hiring ex-GOP aides to assist them, having secret meetings. But they're going to have to apologize because they are, for the third week in a row, and that was last week.
Right.
Their sales are down 21.4%. Imagine what it's going to look like this week. It's going to keep being bad.
You know,
Well,
and the
they're so
only
stupid.
way out is an apology.
Well, you know, my feminist...
Actually, I'm sorry. I don't even know if an apology
I don't
would cut
think
it.
an apology would work. I remember when I got canceled, I was told to apologize, and I was like, even if I did, that it wouldn't work.
No, I got
like an apology.
This is different.
This
is different. The woke mob canceling people was never in good faith.
Yeah.
No, that was not in good
when
faith.
Bud Light did this, the first thing everyone said was, just say you're sorry and we will move on and buy your beer. And I said, look, if they just came out and said, we're sorry for sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney, we won't do it again, we apologize for offending our audience, I'd have been like, okay,
I'll
fine.
still not drink your beer.
No. I said,
you don't drink it at all.
I said I would go and stock the entire office for our guests if they were willing to apologize for having done this, and they are not. In fact, my view of it is they are the opposite of apologizing. Having secret meetings, hiring GOP aides to consult for them, paying millions in marketing is them saying we will do everything in our power to not apologize to our own customers. That is the biggest FU.
Well, they don't care about their customers. They don't care about their customers'
So
values.
that's why, if at this point they have done it, I do not see in any way why anybody would want to be associated with them at this point. After 3 weeks, they could have just come out after that first week and been like, guys, we did not mean to sponsor this person. We had no idea. We are sorry about sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. End of story.
Well,
Okay,
there was
but
that thing for a second where it was like, oh, the corporate people didn't really know that this was going on.
Yeah, but they never said sorry.
No.
Yeah,
never
sorry, to be
apologized.
fair, have you ever been in an argument with someone and then you realize like halfway through you're wrong and you're like, how do I be a reasonable person without apologizing here? I'm clearly incorrect. I am 100% wrong.
Gaslight.
Would you not spend millions of dollars to get out of that situation if you had it? Would you not be like,
That's what we do here on Timcast.
I would just apologize.
You're so virtuous, Libby.
No, I'm not. I just know when I'm wrong, and it happens a lot.
Well,
So
you're
I'm
wrong
used to
right
it.
now.
I'm used to apologizing.
Here's what you do. You quit drinking. And then,
Right, then you like take the steps.
yeah.
And
Imagine
then
all
there's
the
that round where you have to apologize to everybody. You just
Everything's
apologize
easier once
then.
you quit drinking.
Maybe
I
Bud
found
Light
that
should
out.
go to AA. And
Yeah,
then they'll get to
exactly.
that round. We apologize to all our customers for thinking that a whole bunch of men really wanted
Budweiser
to
needs
drink
to
beer.
go to AA, man. I
Sponsored by
back
this
it.
fella in a dress.
Anheuser-Busch and leading in the AA meetings.
How many lives have they saved by stopping all of these men from drinking?
they're
Kids are going to
drinking
write
beers.
letters,
They're
to
drinking
thank you
Coors
letters to
and
Bud Light.
Michelob and whatever.
You're wrong. No.
Miller.
People are buying.
They're buying twice as many.
They're buying twice as much. Bud Light's refusal to apologize is taking lives.
They're
Dude,
having,
maybe-
I'm not drinking Bud Light parties.
I bet
I went
Coors
to-
put them up to it. I bet these other companies were like, you know what would be really cool? That Dylan
be
Mulvaney
hilarious.
They were
is
Coors-
awesome.
Coors CEO has a meeting with the Anheuser-Busch CEO. CEO is like, they're like playing chess, and he's like, you guys think you're the biggest dogs in the park, but I got news for you. Our next play is going to blow you out of the water. And they're like, really? What are you going to do? Well, I shouldn't tell you. But we're sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. And then Anheuser-Busch guy gets up and he's like, I have to go to the bathroom real quick. He runs, he's like, sponsor this person. And then the Coors...
Dylan, however much they're paying you, I'll double it. None of that 70 cents on the dollar thing. I know you're actually a man. I'll pay you a full $1.
Then the Coors Light guy gets up and walks away and laughs, and Bud Light's now. So all of this that they're doing, take a look at this story. This is interesting. Bud Light owners hired ex-GOP staffers as Capitol Hill lobbyists the same day they released the partnership with Dylan Mulvaney. They are doing everything in their power to avoid actually just speaking to their own customers. No, I didn't say apologize. Speaking to.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
They don't want to say anything directly to these angry individuals, to the point where they've put 2 people on leave. They're spending millions in marketing. They're hiring these people. They made a commercial referencing 9/11.
Right, they went
That's
like
desperate.
full
That's
patriotic,
so desperate.
really desperate. Did you see what Dylan Mulvaney did? Dylan Mulvaney's most recent TikTok.
Oh, I
after
always
this.
keep up.
Right, I actually do always keep up because it's fun doing.
Only
these stories.
reason I have TikTok.
But,
David has notifications
right.
turned on.
I push notifications. They
Yeah,
go to my phone.
exactly.
I'm like, ding. I'm like,
Look at you. But Dylan Mulvaney, his last TikTok, instead of, you know how he does like 365 days of girlhood?
Yeah, he skipped a bunch.
It was day 9,601 of being human. And I was like,
Right.
there you go. Just be that. Just be human.
But
And then you're basically fine.
But the video that was put up by
Stop saying you're a little
Mulvaney
girl.
was saying like, you know, people are saying things in the press about me that's not my truth, and it's just like not my truth. It is the most. That is exactly the problem.
Yes, it is.
What they're saying was the truth, but not yours.
exactly. Like, what are you, God? You get to invent truth
This
yourself?
is the subjective cult worldview these people have.
I
Yeah,
saw.
I
They
hate
determine
them.
what is
It's self-worship. That's literally
It
if
happened-
anyone who says
yeah.
my truth is engaged in self-worship. There's no such thing as your truth.
Well, that's
What's the
what it
saying? I
is.
am
I
the
mean,
truth,
it's the
the way-
deification
I am
of
the way
self.
and the truth and the life. Yep.
Yeah.
The logos. These people.
Christ is truth. He is truth.
Even outside of that religious perspective, it is obvious that woke people worship themselves.
Yes, that's correct.
The universe revolves around them. Their reality is reality. That is the postmodernist subjective morality.
James
What
Lindsay is jumping up and down, screaming, "Yes, Tim! Yes, Tim! Yes, Tim!" right now.
Well, what else is self-care,
And swinging a sword.
right? I mean,
Yes.
self-care is like preparation of the sacred vessel.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, and the irony, right, about self-care is you're not actually caring about yourself. You're just
Right.
indulging in selfish
yeah.
pleasures that
Right.
make your life significantly worse in the long run.
Tim, you talked about how
Really
this
nice
is a
lotion and ice cream.
Exactly. Not like
That
going to
cognac.
bed and getting up at a decent time and going to your job and
Exercising.
earning and yeah.
Right.
I saw for the first time, I saw someone do a cover of a TikTok bit. You know, the Dylan Mulvaney bit that he did where he had the tampon and stuff. I saw another different TikToker literally do the same bit.
It wasn't like that
was like a
guy
cover
Sykes,
song.
that guy Sykes.
I don't know the name.
Yeah,
but
so I'm telling you, this guy was one of the guys. This guy pledged to a bunch of sororities at, I think, Alabama.
Oh.
I think it was Alabama. We wrote about him a little bit today, but he pledged a bunch of sororities. He didn't get into any of them. He got very mad. He posted all these prom pictures. He has his hair really short, but it's got like highlights. He's clearly an effeminate gay man, which like, okay, go ahead. But here he is trying to get into all these sororities. And then he started ripping off the Dylan Mulvaney stuff because it was doing well for Mulvaney. And he must have been like, oh, I could definitely get in on this. So I watched some of his videos. And yeah, he goes into the stores. He makes fun of tampons. And it's like, look, none of us like tampons either, okay? Like nobody's into it. It's not something we're all yay, tampons. It's like you're
I'm not
stuck,
particular.
you know, you don't want to like bleed all over the
I
place.
like what they do, though. I like the
But it's like,
what
it's
they
like
perform.
it's-
The effect of tampons
yes.
is useful, but we
They-
don't need to go into the store and be
Right.
like ogling all these cotton products. For
They do
goodness sakes.
these Instagram ads where it's like people have periods and it shows women in their underwear with stains and stuff. Have you seen those? The activist posts?
Fortunately,
Yeah.
no.
There's been a bunch of leftists who
The
have
free
posted
bleed.
Oh, I remember this.
They've posted images on
Runners do that.
They've posted images on Instagram of them laying in bed in their underwear with stains. And my view of that is like no different than if a dude had like crap on his ass.
I'm free shitting, dude. And it's like, why should society constrain my biological functions?
But hold on. Imagine if people were this animated about toilet paper. And they were making
They got those Charmin bears. They're excited.
They're
I know.
super pumped about toilet paper, but they're not against it though. That's the point.
They're
not
pro
like
toilet
this
paper.
toilet paper is
Has a
oppressive
clean
to bear
bottom.
kind.
Right.
Why,
just want
why must I
clean-
cleanse?
Clean fuzzy bears.
Exactly. Toilet paper wasn't around for all of
Commercials are kind of
history.
weird, to be honest.
Yeah, I
little weird.
don't
Little
like
weird.
I don't like any toilet paper commercials. I don't like any tampon commercials. I hate.
They should be like-
all the menstruation commercials. Like just
It's
like,
always
I
a
know
woman
where
in
it is
nature
the
being
store. I
super
know where it
happy
is.
and all
No,
those
there's
where it's like
nothing- it's never
she's like-
happy.
But in the commercials, she's super happy. She's
if
like
you
out in
have-
nature on like a rowboat and it starts sinking and she's like, oh no.
I hate all that so much. And you know what? Like just
You don't need commercials for these things.
get some wool.
Yes,
on
you
and
do,
wash
because your
underclothes.
brand needs
It's
to be
not
the one that
big
people
a deal.
know.
Oh my!
When
goodness.
people think crappy butts, they think Charmin. Look, people go to the store, they walk through the aisle, and they grab the one that's soft.
do you know?
I don't know about what women do. 'Cause, you know.
I don't want to talk about it. But
Unfortunately,
do you know
yes.
what? You know what? That you know how there's been all this shoplifting at like the Dwayne Reeds and the Walgreens and everything like that. So I keep being afraid that when I go into a drugstore, it's all going to be locked up, and I'm going to have to walk up to some teenager at the front and be like, "Can you unlock the tampon?"
They'll have like weird color hair and be wearing
I
a
don't
mask.
want any piece of that. You know, like just
You just got to be assertive. You got to be like, hey, doc, I got to wipe my butt. Open the cabinet.
terrible.
Give me some of that TP.
That's right.
What are you going to do? Hey, everybody poops.
Give me the wet ones. Let's go.
Wet ones.
But
right.
Tampax was sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney.
That
Yes, which is weird.
And
What?
I was
Why?
horrified
And
by
then-
that.
I know-
Because,
I
like,
know
wouldn't
why,
they stick
but-
him up his butt? Did you ever see that South Park
Dylan
with Kenny?
Right.
And they were
Yes, Dylan came out and said after the backlash that the whole bit was actually to help women because even leftist women and regular women were offended by what Dylan was doing marketing tampons.
Yeah.
And so what that video was like, I was just trying to be helpful. And then women got even angrier because a bunch of women started posting like having a male come up to you in a bathroom.
You're
and offer you a-
mansplaining tampons.
No, but like.
and like back off. That's creepy.
This is awesome.
You're a woman. A woman is in the bathroom, and a male walks up to you and says, "Would you like a tampon?" And
Oh
they're
my goodness! I
and-
would
and
be
that's-
terrified.
and
Be like,
that's-
where's the holy water?
and that's why the backlash just got worse.
Yeah.
Now, my hope from all of this is that companies just stop sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney.
No!
Dylan
But
Mulvaney.
he's got everything already. He's got a KitchenAid blender. He's got Kate Spade everything.
Right. Dylan
He's
will-
got like oil of
and-
Olay.
and-
running for
and Dylan-
president, got the Republican
Right.
nomination.
He's doing that. For
And
sure.
Dylan represents algorithmic manipulation to no one. And Bud Light is learning what that means. It means when the algorithm says something is popular, it is not. Just because people are looking at it does not mean people like it. And what is on the internet is here's what's actually happening. There are fringe groups in this country that normally don't have the relationship to each other to organize in large numbers. That means if one person in every major city in the US believed in, space lizards, there's no great space lizard organization, but the internet allows them to congregate digitally. This then results in someone getting 100,000 views on their space lizard video, but these people don't organize in the real world. Now you've got companies being like, who's that guy who's got 100,000 followers? Oh, space lizard guy, he's great. Let's sponsor that. Whereas people normally are like, that's not okay. Dylan Mulvaney gets views because the algorithm props it up. Bud Light says sponsor it. Regular people say, what the are you doing? This is not okay. Now they're reeling from it. I hope other brands take notice and stop sponsoring algorithmic manipulation. But let's do this. Speaking of this subject, we have big breaking news. This is a big story from this weekend. And a 70-year-old man named Dave defeats 82 women in the World Poker Tour ladies event. So
Jeez.
in Southern Florida, the World Poker Tour is currently on. And this fella right here, Dave,
She's aspirational.
the ladies no limit hold'em event in Seminole garnered 83 entries with a prize pool of $17,430. Here's this guy's having a good time.
It's just
playing
really
against
funny
him.
because
He
it's
won.
like not sports. It's not like a physical activity. You just went there, just mopped the floor.
But this is true of anybody. Look, men are better than women at chess.
Yep.
Men are better than women at poker. Poker is actually more obvious than chess. Chess, I don't have an explanation for. Maybe it's related to aggression and risk taking. The reason why men tend to beat women in poker is, and not completely. There are some women who are good, like in any other sport. It's because men are more aggressive and are
They
more
take bigger risks.
They will play aggressively. They will make bigger bets. They will take bigger risks, and they will get paid out for it. Women are less likely to. So, of course, this guy won. He won first place. He gets $5,555. And what they said is, Ebony Kenny, another female, I believe she's a pro poker player, said, maybe Dave was overheard saying, quote, he could pretend to identify as a woman because they allow anything nowadays. And by maybe, I mean 100% now. As we were launching the show, I got word that Dave actually gave a statement to Timcast.com.
Thanks, Dave.
And my understanding is that he was literally protesting that they allow males to compete against females. So I have not actually seen his statement until now. We're going to read it on the show.
Oh, cool.
Dave Hughes responds to winning women's poker event. Hughes said he drove over 5 hours from Orlando to visit a friend competing in the $7 million main event at the Seminole Hard Rock in Florida. Upon arriving in the poker tournament, Hughes wanted to play a hand of poker, but learned the only event available was for participation was the ladies' No Limit Hold'em. Quote, I figured why not? The ladies, as you know, are just as fierce, capable, as competitive as the men in poker and smell a lot better as well. For the record, I'm 100% against men taking advantage of women in sports where strength and muscle make it quite unfair. As we can all clearly see with men breaking all records set by women in every sport across the board while pretending to be women. It's pathetic and embarrassing that we allow our women to be abused and victimized by this nonsense, and eventually the country will wake up to this and put a stop to it. Our young girls and women who dedicate their lives to playing sports deserve better than that, and the silent majority are starting to speak up. Damn.
Well, it's the worst part of the whole story
Dave's
is
a trailblazer.
the prize was originally $4,125, but because he's a man, they gave him $5,500. Really messed up.
So apparently in the World Series, I think it's the World Series of Poker. I think we may have written this up. I'm not sure if we did. They have a ladies event as well, and it's illegal to bar men from entering a tournament. So in Florida, what they said was they were like, we legally cannot say someone is, based on their sex, not allowed to enter an event. So he's allowed to play. They were just like, we hoped people would honor it. In, I think it's the World Series of Poker in Vegas. What they do is it's a $10,000 fee to enter with 90% off if you're female. That's still illegal. They're saying, aha, we found a loophole to discriminate against someone based on sex. Does not work that way. Anybody who wanted to sue could at the federal level, and they would win. You can't do that. There's a dude who was famous for going around to bars that had ladies' night and filing lawsuits and winning instantly. Summary judgment. You cannot offer cheaper drinks to women based on the fact that they are women. You can't do it. And so this guy would just be like, you can't do it. I'm suing. I win. Couple grand. But good on this guy for speaking out.
That guy ruined ladies' nights at every bar. Now the women aren't showing up for cheaper drinks.
They were putting bounties on them. So other players, a bounty is a financial incentive to knock a player out of the game. So if you were to beat him and take all his chips, you would get paid extra by someone else. Didn't work. He won. He actually won. Now, do you think, let me ask you, this random guy who wasn't planning on entering the tournament, who just drove up there on a whim to watch his friend play, he still beat all the women who actually showed up to compete in this tournament?
I don't think it's that surprising.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, men take bigger risks. That seems like part of the fun of testosterone.
It's science.
It's like there's a little bit of fearlessness there.
Small brain
I
women.
don't think it's that. I wouldn't say small brain. But
well, you could, and it'd be fun to say.
Well, there's like a whole IQ thing where more women are in the
Average.
middle than in the
Right.
on either
The greater
end.
male variance hypothesis.
I think
Yeah.
it's probably the aggressiveness is the risk taking and stuff, whereas men are more prone to take risk.
Well, every time I have a friend that I've gone to casinos with, and every time we've gone together, like he takes big risks and I take like no risks, and he makes a lot of money and I end up losing $80 or whatever. And he's like, oh, you need to take risks, And I'm like, oh, but it's my money.
It's just longer time.
So
I suck at it.
this is this guy Dave
I
said.
take some risks, but
He said,
not
quote,
these kind. Not with
doubt
my
I'd
money or
ever
my
do it
life."
again, but it sure caused a fuss and created a buzz and a lot of extra prize money for the ladies. Women are every bit as good as men in any game that requires mental skill and wits. He is technically correct.
He ruined it.
It's the greater male variance hypothesis. What he's saying is, if you probably were to average it out, you would find that the average man and the average woman are probably comparable in general skill in games like poker or chess. The issue is there are substantially more stupid men who suck and competent men who are good because there's greater male variance.
Yep.
So most women fall in the middle. And then I feel bad for women because you know what that means? It means for women, they are more likely to encounter stupid men and smarter men.
Yeah.
So it's just frustrating across the board.
It is
and this
frustrating
is every
across the board.
time-
dealing with men as a woman.
That's right.
Well, I'm
it's really
sure.
a pain in the ass.
Look,
Because most of them are dumber than you.
Yes.
And then a lot of them are smarter, but they're
A couple.
Well, it's actually a bell curve. So you have.
I was talking about me personally.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, like the day-to-day interaction for a woman working in an office is probably going to be with the lower end of the bell curve men. And so women are probably experiencing many more stupid men than men experience of women.
Yep.
well, you talk to these male feminists and you try to explain this principle to them. You say men are more likely to be smart or dumb, whereas women are more likely to be average. And they go, I've never noticed that women seem less intelligent than me. I have bad news, buddy. I have bad news about where you are on that spectrum.
Right.
You know,
Whenever a dude's like, oh, they're so much smarter than us, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's,
It makes
You
sense.
already said male feminist, so
Yeah,
already
exactly.
he's at the
It's at that
wrong
lower end of the bell
But I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense that, dudes that are more aggressive and actually that are smart guys, they're going to be the ones that are going to go out and try to start something on their own. And I'm sure
But we need
women
that.
will too. Yeah, absolutely.
We need that.
Yes.
We need like
But in an
the-
office, it's going to end up with the midwits.
Yeah,
You know?
'cause being in an office is awful.
So a lot of these prominent feminist writers are midwits. And so for those that aren't from,
Like who?
like the women who work at Jezebel and Vice.
Oh, you mean
and-
like Taylor Lorenz and all of these?
They're
type of people?
midwits.
Yeah.
You can go to
Meaning
Media Matters.
They are
and-
slightly
and-
above average in intelligence.
Yeah.
They
And
think
that
they're
means they're going to be
geniuses.
surrounded by a bunch of really dumb men. And then they're going to,
the perfect
and
socialist.
report that experience. Yeah, you got to understand this too. I'm going to swear, but this is an actual scientific term. So I'm warning everybody. This is the actual academic phrase: sneaky fucker.
Really?
That is not an insult. It is not a gag. It's not a joke.
could
It's
be
a
though.
reference
a little
to
insulting.
Well, it's a reference to in biology. In species, you have the dominant men, and you have the dominant males and the sneaky fucker males. And the sneaky fucker males will go in the middle of the night in some species and then reproduce under the, they'll sneak in to reproduce while the dominant strong man, who is the authority, is unaware. That's why they're called sneaky fuckers. Male feminists are described similarly in that they are men who will say whatever they think the woman wants to hear in order to get access to reproduction. Then you have the confident, strongman types who win or through confidence and status are attractive to women. So you have the sneaky fucker, and then you have
Those sneaky fuckers, though, like they're very like you can see that when you look at them.
Not when you're on
But hold
birth
on.
control.
Not when you're a male feminist. Not when
like,
you no
this is
not
not a
not
good
when you're a
guy.
feminist and you're surrounded by nothing but
Oh,
sneaky
nothing but
fuckers.
these guys, yeah.
And surprise, surprise, it is no surprise to me that these feminists are writing articles being like all men are this way. It's
Yep.
like
Yeah.
because you've surrounded yourself with nothing but low quality sneaky fucker men.
Well, and they always project. That's why those guys always go, men just want to use women's bodies. You're
No.
telling me about yourself,
You're just
buddy.
hanging out
You're
with
telling
terror.
me about you.
I'm
you
like,
just
I'm
hang
pretty,
out with
I'm pretty
awful
sure
people.
Michael Knowles, who married his high school sweetheart and had a family, was intending on more than just having a body of this person after decades.
Exactly. And you and I were speaking about this on my podcast a while ago,
Yeah.
Libby, but what they project in such egregious ways, they say conservatives just want to use women for their bodies and only see them as birthing people, even though they use phrases
That's
like
the
birthing
terms they
person.
use.
And now they're advocating for surrogacy, where you literally just use a woman for her body and see her as a baby maker rather than a person you're committed to.
Yeah, I think everyone knows how I feel about surrogacy. We've been through that.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a I don't know how you correct for this problem when liberal women surround themselves with male feminists.
You repeal the 19th.
Well,
I mean, I don't
know
think
about
that changes that women are going to be surrounded by men who are going to say whatever the women want to hear in order to get access to banging them.
I think there's a misconception, right, about relationships. I think when you fall in love with your high school sweetheart, you should probably marry them. You should probably marry the person you fall in love with. And
Well,
not wait
that's not what they're
around
saying
and-
nowadays.
No, now they
Nowadays
say all
it-
these other things. I saw this thing on Instagram and it was like, you're going to have 3 great loves in your life. And it went to list them. And it was like the first
Why?
love, right?
This is a
and the
horoscope?
Great
No,
loves.
this was like it was on Instagram. I don't know. It was the sneaky fucker algorithm is what it was. Okay. Like, is this Instagram thing?
He's like, hey, I'm number 3.
Right?
I just want you to know it's the best one.
But it was like, it went through them all, like all these different things. And it was like, well, why not Why not just get together with the person you fall in love with first?
What's happening is
That's not a bad
feminists
idea.
are working for these corporations like Vice, BuzzFeed, etc., and they're surrounded by sneaky fucker men.
Yes.
And again, I'm not saying it's an
I
insult.
love your loophole.
It's not a loophole. It's an actual biological
I
term.
understand.
Like
It's a
biologists,
biological word. Sure.
Biologists describe this method of reproduction as sneaky fucker.
Well, I appreciate it.
So what happens then when these women are sitting around and they're like, what do you think about sexual liberation? Of course the sneaky fuckers would be like, yeah.
It's empowering.
You should totally bang everybody.
Protest
Like-
topless. That'll show us.
In the early days of the feminist
Exactly.
movement, the feminists were not all gung-ho about abortion. It was men who got involved and were like, let's put abortion in. And everyone was like, I guess.
Consequence-free sexual access.
Look,
Let's do that.
I wanted to
And
hook
kill
up. I don't want to have a family.
Right.
So why didn't you go? It's like Dennis in
It's Always Sunny.
It's Always Sunny, when he supports the pro-choice because he's like, I don't have a family. Are you crazy?
Yeah, I've
That's
heard
bold
this
of
from
that show
people
to
too.
do that joke, to be honest.
Oh,
But that's a
they've
great
no,
done-
no,
show.
I saw a lot of it when I was younger.
But
Yeah.
they even right now, I'm actually impressed with some of the jokes they've been willing to do.
Wait, are they still on?
Yeah.
I haven't
That's a
watched
great
it in
show.
ages.
Yeah, and I guess they just did an episode with Bryan Cranston and Aaron. What's it?
Aaron Paul, probably the Breaking
Paul.
Bad guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
both of them. Let's jump to this next story, ladies and gentlemen. Crack open your celebratory drinks. We've got breaking news from the New York Times. Vice is said to be headed for bankruptcy. The company, which was once valued at $5.7 billion, has been struggling to find a buyer this year. In fact, they're reporting it's going to go to auction. Look at this. Vice.
I got $50. The offer stands. $50.
Vice would continue operating normally and run an auction to sell the company over a 45-day period, with Fortress Investment Group in pole position as the most likely acquirer. This is amazing. That's it. It's all coming crashing down. It is kind of sad, I got to tell you. When I started at Vice, it was not as bad as it had become. In fact, it was quite good. Shane Smith, the CEO, had gone on Colbert and said, look, we're not Democrats or Republicans. We're storytellers. We're just trying to, figure this thing out. And I'm like, that's amazing. The videos they were producing were just like your bar buddy telling you a story about how he walked to this place. Here's what he saw. There was no pretense. There was no authority. And then as soon as they got money, he said, bring in the pretense, bring in the authority, and bring in the feminists. And it burned the company to the ground. I got to be honest. When Vice was sex, drugs, and rock and roll and edgy, it was skyrocketing.
It was
And the
cool.
moment
That
they
was
decided to get woke, they went.
Yeah, well, it's like what Elon Musk was saying about the woke mind virus, and it took over Vice,
Yeah.
and it destroyed it, took over BuzzFeed.
There's
and it's
nothing-
basically like that's the reason postmillennial exists.
There's
to
literally
combat
nothing.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing cool about woke, right? Like it's cool to be nice to people, and that's what you want to treat people with respect and stuff. I get it, but there's nothing edgy. There's nothing cool about being woke. And Vice's whole foundation was built on being edgy and cool. They snuck into North Korea.
Right.
Like the whole point was
Well, and
supposed
they
to be
were
their
sexy.
ballsy.
Like their New York parties
Exactly.
were always sexy and really fun.
Well, I mean, I never went, but
It was,
it's like it's supposed to be edgy and cool, and then it's like all woke is just like society's hall monitors, and it sucks because all they ever do is you can't say this, you can't do that, blah 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 blah, and it's totally
Vice-
antithetical to what Vice started out as.
It was supposed to be the CNN of the street. It was supposed to be anti-establishment. It was edgy. It was taking over. And then as soon as they got any semblance of money, immediately Joe Biden's coming in for an interview back during the Obama administration. We're going to get, we're so excited for this. They went full, and just as soon as the government came a knocking, as soon as the investors came a knocking, they said, we will do anything you say. And this was inevitable.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure they're going to come out and try and give you all the reasons about, well, it's a changing landscape in media. No, I disagree. There's a reason why Timcast is expanding and Vice is imploding and BuzzFeed is imploding.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why all of these journalists are just so salty. I offered them jobs every time.
Do you really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But,
Has anyone taken you up on it?
there actually are people at Vice who are good people, who are
Exactly.
just documentary filmmakers who
Yeah.
are like, let me know if you ever need a pitch because, we've always want to go and travel and do some stuff.
You should buy Media Matters.
Well, and this
So
is
but that's a nonprofit.
Well, the people there who are good are the people there at Vice who are good are going to find jobs making things that are good instead of that garbage. And then the people there who suck and are dragging the company down are going to either change or they're not going to find work. So that's the thing. It's creative destruction.
I can't believe it's fun. It really is sad. I mean, I looked at the old Vice building for sale, $34 million.
Oh, wow.
It's a compound in Williamsburg in New York that's got a whole bunch of businesses in it. But man, I went and looked at it since Vice moved to a new building in the southern part of Williamsburg in New York. And the old building's just falling apart. It's like nothing. It's like
That's
graffiti all over it.
sad.
I think a large portion of it was actually torn down. Yeah, and it is. I'm like, man, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, I used to stand out in front of there, just talking smack with other employees, all these stories, talking news, talking politics, finance. And now it's all just falling apart.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I'm just thinking back to 2012, 2013, when I'm like 2012, I'm talking to these guys, 2013, I'm getting hired over there. And they would not listen. But you know what? Part of me wonders if Shane Smith cares. I think he does because brand was always so important to him. It was always the most important thing to build up the brand. And I think he wanted Vice to become Disney, to become CNN, to be this legacy brand. And because of his inability to see what was happening around him and his embracing of this crackpot cult garbage, he burned his own name to the ground. And now what does he have to show for it? Well, look, he may still be worth a lot of money, but most of his wealth was tied up in Vice. So when people said that he was a billionaire, it was only because of Vice's value at $5.7 billion. He cashed out, I think, like $30 or $40 million, maybe. And now that Vice is worthless and entering bankruptcy and going to be sold, I don't know how much he'll even get out of this.
I think it is too bad. I always really liked their photography and, the edgy nature of it. I thought it was fun.
But those people who were good at doing that, they're going to find work at organizations that are decent. Yeah, exactly.
Or they'll be able to start something new themselves.
Exactly, because with an organization like this, and this is part of why I'm cheering it on, it's not because I'm glad that the people who are talented and hardworking and dedicated are out of work. It's because all of those people were locked into an organization with a bunch of idiots who were woke and had no idea how to direct the company. And now the workers who are genuinely good are free to pursue opportunities at companies that will guide them better and lead them better, or like you said, start their own businesses. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think it's always good to start your own enterprise. One thing, at Post Millennial, I came on in 2019 as a freelancer, and now I'm like,
You're top dog.
part of running the company.
Yeah.
And I'm part of running the company.
Don't try to avoid accountability here, all right?
I will
make
take
fun of
full
you on air.
responsibility, but I am only part of running the company. But I will take full responsibility. Anyway, but the fun thing about it, and a big part of the reason I wouldn't want to go somewhere else, is I've been working on it this whole time. I've been making it with these people that, I really enjoy that work there. And it's we built this thing. Why would we, I would never want to do something else. My hands are stuck in the muck of this project.
This may be one of the biggest get woke go brokes we have ever seen. Yeah. I pulled up a story from 2017. Vice Media's Shane Smith is now a billionaire. They said that due to a $450 million investment round, Shane Smith's holdings were now worth some $1 billion. They say that he had roughly 20% of Vice. After applying a 10% private company discount to its valuation and adding Smith's spread of some $33 million in real estate, his net worth totals an estimated $1 billion. If he had 20% of the company, and that's what put him at $1 billion, with Vice currently going bankrupt, his net worth is now in the low tens of millions.
Ha! He's broke.
He went.
I look down on him. He has nothing.
Tens of millions. No. Hold on. He's got more money than he could ever spend. I'm sure he even said, he says in this, he says, I don't give an ish about money. I've got more money. I'm worth more money than I can ever spend. That absolutely true. So he's going to be able to retire very, very comfortably and probably be independently wealthy for the rest of his life. He never has to work again. But going from being a billionaire running one of the most valuable media companies to losing all of that in a matter of a few years, all because they wanted to get well. And you know what? They want to make any excuse they can. And I can prove outright, or I'll just say outright, it is BS. Vice had no reason to lose its standing. It was the wokeness. It is divisive. It splits your audience, and they hyperpolarized. They basically told everybody who ever liked Vice to F off.
Yep.
Let me tell you a story about when I was talking to one of my producer buddies that I've known from Vice for a long time. Vice ran an article, and it said, this horrible app can show you what women look like topless. And it said someone developed
Oh,
an
wait, I
AI
remember this.
developed an AI app that if it takes a picture of a woman, you can press render and it will AI remove their top. And I said, do you know what Vice's headline would have been in 2013? This amazing app can show you any, because they were trying to be edgy and be like, screw you, can do whatever you want. And they decided to get woke and be hall monitor feminists. And they basically told their entire audience, you are bad people, F off. And I was told by this dude at Vice, well, but we have to change. We can't do that anymore. And I'm like, then you're going to fail. Because
You're not going to be Vice.
I don't know.
Change your name.
right.
I think it's
Exactly.
fair
You
to
are now
say-
trans Vice.
I think it's
Yes.
fair to say that
Yep.
app sucks, though. I think it's fair to say that particular app sucks.
But the point was, it's not that Vice's old headline would literally be intending to talk about how great it is the app exists. It was meant to insult the established narrative and be edgy and say, screw your system. But instead, they became hall monitors. I mean, I gotta be honest, they probably wouldn't have even written the article. They'd be like, who cares? Let's complain about how screwed up everything is and tell everyone to go F themselves, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Instead, they were like, let's put on our button-up shirts and then go complain about how oppressive these people are. All they did was start ponying up to the establishment narrative, and people don't care for that, especially young people. But more importantly, this is what Bud Light did.
Yeah.
Vice went to their readers and said, now that we have investment, we don't care about you, and we're going to target a different demographic. And guess what? The younger demographic did not care. They did not care for the hall monitor style of content.
Well,
So
and they don't like it. I mean, because what all of these wokey people and the corporations don't realize is that they are now the establishment. And the kids are coming up and they're looking at it and they're going, stop telling us what to do. Stop telling us what to believe. We don't subscribe to your whole worldview. We're going to buck it. We're going to get off this whole train. And so that's what they're doing. Like, you know, my son and his friends, they look at this stuff and they see right through it. They see that it's total ideological garbage and they want to make their own way. They want to come up with their own opinions and ideas.
I have two teenage nephews and they're the same.
Yeah,
Same way
and I have mad respect for these kids looking at this being like, you are the establishment. And the millennials didn't realize that when they were buying into this whole narrative, it was the establishment narrative, you know? And Gen Z, I think we're still waiting to see what happens with them. But, you know, they're all this guy Sykes with the tampon guy and all of this stuff. That's what they're doing. And they're getting all this money from the Biden administration now to be influencers and to start, you know, spilling this garbage narrative.
oh yeah, did you see those?
But the kids
those
aren't in
two,
favor of it.
those two Twitter guys, the Gen Z. What's his name? You know what I'm
Which
talking
ones?
about? The two Gen Z dudes who are making videos where they're all smarmy and
Harry's
like, we
one of the
don't
kids'
like the
name.
Republicans.
Oh, I didn't
We're
see
not
that.
paid by the DNC. And there's a community note being like, they're hired by a management firm that's funded by the DNC.
They're getting community
Look,
notes.
the greatest trick the establishment ever pulled was convincing people that it wasn't the establishment.
Yeah.
That was really clever. Obama did that.
Yep.
Did an amazing job.
And I
Everyone
gotta
thought
say,
they were countercultural because they liked the president, which is absurd.
when I was a teenager, I found it very patronizing. When I would have the misfortune of seeing anything on MTV because someone else was watching it, I would cringe because it always felt very, how do you do, fellow kids? And I knew that these were
I love
adults
Steve Buscemi.
writing, he's fantastic. But it was obvious that these were adults writing young people saying the things that these weird, creepy adults thought young people should be saying, so that I would watch that and go, that's so cool. That's what I believe now. But it made me extremely angry as a youth. And unfortunately now they have this edge of being able to promote whichever voice they want through the algorithm on TikTok. Because sure, you're always going to find young people who are mixed up and will repeat these talking points. And because it's not as highly produced, because it's not clearly coming from Hollywood
Right,
or
it
the
looks-
establishment,
it looks
young
organic.
people, yes, it seems organic and it seems like something the majority of young people actually believe because it's continually recommended by the algorithm. And it's possible that among that generation that's true, but regardless, my point is the propaganda catches on more easily when it's your fellow young people saying it and it's promoted as opposed to a highly produced television show that I know is being written by people in their 40s.
Yep.
Right.
It's very produced. It's extremely it's very much the algorithm pushing the ideas that I don't think that are actually popular with people. Like I don't.
Bud Light's proof.
Bud Light is proof.
You know, I don't think that. I think that it's
Dylan
the average
Mulvaney's
person
5
rejects
o'clock
that.
shadow and zero hips, bust, or butt are evidence that
Yeah.
none of this stuff is
But
very
I mean,
popular. Also,
with
like,
young people,
the
though,
other-
I mean,
yeah.
like, I think they reject it, and I think
Yeah.
that's what we
The
kind
other
of
thing too, when the more we see, like I was writing about this recently, I've been giving a lot of thought. the current beauty standards are more unhealthy and unattainable than the previous ones.
They're a rejection of beauty
Are we
standards.
supposed to look like Elliot Page and
Yep.
cut our boobs off? Are we supposed to look like Lizzo and gain, I don't know, like a lot of weight?
It's a rejection
She
of
goes out there
but
and
it's a
says, and
rejection
she's
of tra-
obviously
traditional
very
beauty, though.
beautiful. Like she's a beautiful
look.
woman, but
I heard Jared Leto
in her face, she's a beautiful
was trying to gain weight for a role, so he would take a pint of Ben and Jerry's every night, microwave it, and then pour olive oil and soy sauce and stir it up and then chug it.
Crazy that he was
And
born
Why not
that
just
way.
eat the ice cream?
He gained weight so fast that he couldn't stand, and he had to use a wheelchair. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. It's poor guy.
Because the
born that
salt
way.
helps absorb the water, I guess. And
I remember very distinctly, I used to eat a pint of ice cream every day when I was in college. I was stoned. But I realized at a certain point, I was like, wait, I'm gaining weight. I really need, and I switched to a half pint and I stopped gaining weight.
one thing I
That
think
was college. That's college.
I'm
It's
finding
like
a
that.
lot of people that I've known and a lot of personalities that I used to, watch when I was growing up, pro skateboarders, musicians, are becoming more conservative. And they had I think there's a rejection of what the left is doing to the point where you've got edgy urban liberal types who are just like, y'all have lost your minds. And now they're like, people need to have families and get jobs. And they used to be the sex, drugs, and rock and roll people. And they're just like, none of this is okay. It's gone too far. The degeneracy is literally destroying companies. I'm not going to name anyone specifically, but there are some famous skateboarders and musicians who are very much from the world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll who are now like, have a family, buy property, work hard, save for the future. And I think it's because they're looking into the mirror that is the left and being like, nah, this is not.
That's
a good
how I
thing.
ended up over here too.
I know
looking at
guys
this
like that.
I'm perfectly happy to be a bit libertine, but I don't think that should be the social ethos.
Yeah.
Well-
like this is one band, All That Remains.
Yeah.
Very often, and it's normal that as people get older, they do tend to become more conservative. Part of what's so insidious now is that people on the left are encouraging these young people to receive body mutilating surgeries that they will not be able to reverse. And part of what ends up happening as a result of that is a person is so bought into it
You
that
can't
they
get
can
out.
never admit it was wrong.
Right.
How
I
do
mean,
you how do you admit
Among
that you
other
were
many
wrong?
horrible, yeah.
If
Well,
you
let's-
mutilate your body, how do you come back from that?
and-
Well, hold on,
Yeah.
let's
Psychologically.
Let's jump to the story because we do have big news. Kiss co-founder Paul Stanley, 71, slams parents who confuse their children about gender identity, branding child sex changes a sad and dangerous fad. This is the front man. This is the guy, the star on his face for Kiss.
Yeah, this
That's
is
the guy.
Star
Yeah.
child.
Star child. That's
he
him.
doesn't even look bad.
He's 71. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, he doesn't look bad.
And,
for 71 at all.
He's aged better than me.
Look at that. Does he have? Here we go. He says, I'll read some of what he says. There's a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game, and then parents in some cases allow it. He says there are individuals who as adults may decide reassignment as their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they're doing. I think he's completely right. Kids will play with whatever toys because they're just kids. They're exploring the world. And what's happening now is this is the meme. It's a kid playing with a doll, and then the parent says, I'll prep the surgery. Right? It's like, oh, he played with a doll. Well, there it is. The funny thing is, and I've pointed this out, so has many others, how is it that they argue simultaneously that gender is a social construct? Meaning playing with dolls is not unique to males or females, but then if a male plays with dolls or a female with a football, that proves they're actually identifying as the opposite sex.
The weird thing too is the genderization of toys and clothes came like after my childhood, after my brother's childhood, and you started to go into the Lego section and you would see girls Legos and boys Legos. That didn't used to be the thing. When I would hang out in my friend Nikki's basement and play with her brother's Legos, we just all played Legos. It wasn't a big deal. And the same thing with the Barbie dolls. Like we would just all play. It wasn't a big deal.
No, I joined a girls Lego competition and I just crushed. I crushed. I joined a girls' Barbie competition even, and I still beat them. It was incredible.
You would
But in all
never beat me in Barbies. I would just like to say, like, I would kick your ass in Barbies.
In
would
all
bring G.I.
seriousness,
Joe.
there was a clip
big
I
ones,
saw
the
from
tall.
your show, and I can't remember the guest. And if you can, please shout him out. But he was saying there were studies on how boys and girls will play differently. They'll play with the same toy,
Yeah.
but when the boy picks up the toy, he starts embodying the character he's playing with. Whereas when the girl picks up the toy, she has the character act the way she does.
Yep.
So even when we're playing with, or as kids playing with different toys, we are just the same
I
toys.
see.
We
So,
react
like,
because the
differently.
boy- when
like
boys
the
are
boy
playing
picks
with-
the way he described it. I feel bad that I can't remember who it was, but the way he described it is when a boy picks up a Batman toy, now he's Batman. He's like, I'm Batman. And he's just playing like Batman. When the girl picks Batman up, Batman's like, do you want to have a tea party?
Then
And we
Batman
did it-
wants a tea party.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Exactly. Like Batman
I
acts
used to
like a
play
little girl.
Barbies with my friends at my mom's apartment, and like the neighbors and stuff. We had this Barbie dream house, and my friend Julia's brother came
was-
to play with us, and he was older. He was like 12, I want to say, and we were like 10 or something. But he took one of my Barbies that was disabled and strapped together with rubber bands, and he was like, "This is the madam of the Barbie dream house," and we were like, "What's that?
Oh my
What are you talking about?" And he.
Television and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race.
whoa, Ted, Uncle Ted.
Whoa.
But
Television.
we went all
Let's talk
through.
about radio.
The next thing you know, we had like the
print.
Barbie. We had the Barbie brothel. We had like this
my
whole
God.
thing set up. It was ridiculous. And I told my mom about it. I was like, "Oh, Mark said this and that," and my mom was like,
You can't go over there anymore.
Seamus, it was Ethan Van Scriver who said that. Ethan Van Scriver with the comic artist.
Oh, okay.
said that.
Awesome.
So, yeah, Comicsgate. Someone mentioned in the chat. So
I wouldn't know because I've never been female, but when I used to play with Legos, you're right. When I would play with toys, me and my friends would take the action figures or whatever, and we would voice them. We would be like, "I am going to take over the world." We were the character was us. We were like acting as them.
That's what we used to do with the Barbies. We'd like
Well,
make
then that's
worlds.
the opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah, we
Well,
would like,
I was
but,
just
like,
quoting
we would
someone-
do-
I-
we
that's
would
what I
do,
was
like-
told.
We would do like stories. We would like invent whole worlds with the Barbies, and mostly they
But
ended up having sex.
The issue, the issue is when you would play with Barbie, was the Barbie channeling you, and you were like, "I'm Barbie," and Barbie would do things.
No,
you would do?
Barbie was another character.
I distinctly
Barbie
Liar.
was like the character
Liar.
of the,
see. I distinctly remember when I
But
was
like we'd
when I
do
was,
the voices. We'd be like, "I'm going over here now."
Yeah.
When I
Do you
was
like
a
my
kid,
hair?
I used like if I was playing with like GI Joes or whatever, and my cousins were playing with Barbie or whatever, and they wanted to like have the Barbies and the GI Joes interact, I would get upset because they would want the GI Joes to do like Barbie things, and I'm like, no, GI Joes don't do that.
He doesn't
GI Joes
play
are
that,
going,
yeah.
they're going to fight, and they would be like, no.
This is why my cousin
Yeah.
would be like, he had the Hulk Hogan and the Roddy Piper
Yeah.
guys. And so whenever I played Barbies with him, it was like wrestling Barbie.
yes.
Would they have like the GI Joes at the mall with the Barbies, and then one GI
They
Joe
would
goes
try
to the
to.
other, and he goes, "Hey, that uniform. What platoon were you with?" And he's like, he goes, "Stolen valor. This guy's stealing valor."
I don't think Stolen Valor was really a thing back then, to be honest.
I'm sure it was. They just got away with it because no one was filming it.
So D.
But no one
Snyder,
put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
D. Snyder came out on Twitter and actually agreed with Paul Stanley. And so
Oh,
I'm
that was
feeling
cool, yeah.
I'm feeling pretty confident, and I'm feeling pretty white-pilled as of lately, because what I think what's happening is that we are reaching woke critical mass. I think Bud Light is very, very important in more ways than people realize. The fact that Bud Light sales are down 21.4% suggests to regular people who are like, I don't know what's right or wrong, I just want to be on the right side of history, are now going, maybe it's not the woke people.
Yep.
Yeah.
If rock stars, celebrities, and the average person is not buying this beer anymore. So now imagine this. Bud Light is uncool. Nobody wants to buy it. Now you're going to see an outright rejection of this because a regular person who normally just follows the trends is going to be like, I don't drink Bud Light. Whatever you say, guys.
And then a beer company is going to hire an actual woman to advertise their beer.
It used to be that the joke was
like a
the
tank
joke
top,
Family Guy
like
did.
a
No, don't do that.
was
She needs to
they're
be
in the
dressed modest.
backyard,
They're really
and there's a
counter-revolutionary.
modestly.
She'll dress
And they
modestly.
say that drink our beer and beautiful women will want to have sex with you. And the commercial was
That used to
women.
be the thing,
that was
yeah.
that was the commercial. And now the commercial is, if you drink Bud Light, you are sexually attracted to people of the same sex as you. And I don't think your average guy who's going to a barbecue wants to convey that message to his neighbors. So they're just like, that's not my, I don't drink that stuff. Don't look at me.
Bud Light, it's reverse conversion therapy.
Cut your wiener off so Joe
Look, man,
can bang
look.
the hole.
I mean, they used
They're-
to sell sex for everything.
I think there
Gum. Remember gum sex
when it comes
ads?
to a lot of
Wrigley's
alcoholic
spearmint
drinks
gum.
like Bacardi Silver or O or whatever. I don't know if they still have those, but like fruity light drinks in wine coolers or whatever are seen as effeminate, and guys want to drink like Guinness, like a strong dark beer or something. So now you have Bud Light being like the frilliest of foo-foo brands,
Exactly.
and outright stating like.
Yeah, like White Claw is more masculine.
If they
than
were,
Bud Light.
yep, if they were selling like strawberry daiquiris, I could understand.
Yeah. But now you have a beer that is widely seen as effeminate. And surprise, surprise to all of the woke Gen Zers or whatever, guys don't want to be seen as weak.
And to be fair,
Some-
for
some
any,
are
That's
probably
who
fine with
drinks
it.
beer. Like dudes drink beer. Women buy those fruity things.
those like Bud Lights are the beer that you get for like or were the beer that like you'd get for the afternoon because you didn't want to have like too heavy beer and it's kind of thirst quenching and stuff, and then you drink the heavier stuff later. Nobody's doing that anymore. No one's drinking that anymore.
It's the beer that you buy because you're not only manly enough to drink beer, you're manly enough to not care if anyone you're with wants good beer. And so you bring that over.
That's
That's
right.
the demographic. They're like Dylan Mulvaney. That's
But-
who will slap on.
Shut up and
but my
drink.
main
It is
point-
pretty masculine, right?
My main point with bringing this subject back up is regular people, the left is trying to win the culture war by saying you are on the wrong side of history. And because civil rights is the right side of history, they're trying to pretend that they represent civil rights when in fact they represent segregation
And fascism.
and fascism and
Tyranny.
fascistic ideologies.
Compelled speech.
But they're wearing a mask of civil rights. Now that regular people, though, are saying no to Bud Light, many people who are following the woke are going to question whether or not that's the safe place to be because they were just going along with the crowd. Hey, the crowd's not there, man. The crowd's clearly boycotting Bud Light.
What ended up happening to Gillette's numbers after that ad?
I think
because they're a
they were
men's
tanking.
brand. They were a men's brand, and I remember people saying, "Go woke, get broke," or "Get woke, go broke."
I'll tell you
whatever
what
the phrase
happened.
is.
When Hershey's had a male sponsor their women's candy bar.
That Canadian,
We got
that crazy
this
Canadian.
delicious She Her candy bar by Jeremy's Chocolates.
Isn't it
And I will
hilarious?
stress, they don't pay me to do this. They do not.
Dude, people, and it's
Now you're
funny
making me want
because
chocolate.
whenever anyone
You got it right there.
responds,
I know, but I feel weird chewing into the mic. Wait, I'll just
push the microphone away.
Go ahead, you talk.
unbelievable.
You talk,
Libby.
and I'll just chew over here.
There you go. Whenever these boycotts happen, people go, "Oh, absolutely. Why do you care so much?" I don't know, because it's being forced onto me at all times by everyone.
because we're literally a year away from S the D bigot.
No, dude, that was like 2 years ago.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was the joke 2 years ago. I really do. It's getting to the point where there are people that do, and not that there's a lot of people that support the argument. There are people that do make the argument that if you won't date a trans woman, if you're a straight man and you won't date a trans woman, you're a bigot. And I don't give a shit. I'm a bigot. I don't care.
Well,
I'm
but
not dating.
you know who really gets pushed, has this pushed on them are lesbians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Lesbians are like, wait, I'm not doing the right thing. What am I supposed to do? Let me do the right thing. I'll do the thing. And so, yeah, lesbians are easy to push around. It turns out,
You know what the crazy thing is?
like a lot of women.
I read before that in Iran, if you're a gay man, they force you to get a sex change, and if you're a gay woman, the same
Right?
thing.
Yeah.
But now what we're seeing is these young women who are like autistic and gay are being told they're trans and should get, sex changes or whatever, or mastectomies, and that's like weirdly similar to what Iran does.
It's very similar to what Iran does. And it was like, 4,400% increase in young women deciding to be trans. So this was interesting. So you have all these young women deciding to be trans. See, more chocolate. You have all these young women deciding to be trans right around puberty. And they look at like womanhood and they're like, I don't want any piece of that. That seems awful. You've got like the tampons, you've got the whole thing. It's awful. There's nothing, it's hard to see anything good about it, right? And so they decide that they want to be boys instead. And they go through that whole thing. I was recently seeing, I think it was a writer who does a lot of trans writing and stuff, is basically hitting menopause, like premenopause, and being like, I am trans masculine now. And it's kind of it's the reverse of kind of the same thing. She's looking at cronehood. She's looking at being an old woman. No one wants to be an old woman, even more than no one wants to be a grown-up woman. You look at this, everything in your body just like sags down. It's terrible. It's horrible. Nobody wants any part of that. And so now she's going to be masculine. She's getting a breast binder. And it's like, yeah, because they're already like hanging down to your navel, probably. It's not... Like just so
No,
it's like the same kind of thing. Like when a woman hits a change of life, whatever that change of life is, she's like, I don't want any part of that. And who can blame her? It sucks.
Well, also, no, I think that's a very good point. I mean, girls are generally uncomfortable during puberty. There are a lot of changes there. And especially when you look at the current cultural paradigm, women are told not to want to do things that are natural to women. And also, one aspect of this people don't talk about is that the average age of first exposure to pornography is 13 years old. And there is really gross, horrible, hardcore stuff out there. And you can absolutely imagine a girl encountering that and going, oh my gosh, that's what sex is? That's what happens to women? No, I don't want to be a woman.
Someone super chatted that we should look at Noodles, the guitar player from The Offspring's reaction to Kiss. And I just want to say this. I know this is a bit personal for me to say, but this may be one of the greatest days of my life. The guitarist from The Offspring has me blocked. The very first song I ever learned how to play on the guitar was The Kids Aren't All Right, written by this man, and he has blocked me on Twitter. Truly a day for me to behold.
Was your cover that bad?
He probably blocked me because, I'm friends and play music with their old drummer who they crapped all over because they're nasty, evil people. And man, you know what? I will say one thing that frustrates me is that there's a lot of secrets about celebrities that if people only knew, but this guy, from my understanding, is lying about everything.
Really?
I can't say much more because it's not my place to say, and that bothers me. But until someone comes out and comes on the record about the band and about their actual, let's just say, about the truth, there's not much more I can say. But what I will say is this. Many of these people in Hollywood who post these tweets do so just because they want to get the PR brownie points, and they voted for Trump.
Oh, and they voted for Trump.
For one reason.
Taxes.
That's it. They don't care about anything.
Yeah.
These people.
That's why a lot of rappers will vote for Trump.
Yep.
Because they're like into the not having to pay a.
Now, here's what I want to say.
I don't believe any rappers voted for Joe Biden. I don't care what they say publicly.
I don't know why you would
None of them voted. They're all like, I'm voting for Trump.
Let me
Trump's
show you.
baller, and Joe Biden's an old creepy man.
Yeah. Let me show you what Noodles actually said. I clicked his Twitter account to see his response to Paul Stanley and saw that I was blocked. He said, "This is a very disappointing take, especially from someone who wore high heels, makeup, and teased up hair his whole career. As a young kid, your band helped teach me that I could be whatever I wanted to be. I guess it was just gimmickry after all." Ben Collins of NBC says, "The idea of Kiss, of all bands complaining about gender nonconforming people, is just chef's kiss." The funny thing is, he is, of all the people to come out and say kids should not be doing this, he is the perfect person in that he wore high heels and makeup, and he never cut off his genitals.
He never did,
His
not even
point
one time.
being made is, you can.
He didn't even try it.
He outright says children may dress in their brothers and sisters' clothes, and that's just something they want to do. Don't tell them to get surgeries and drugs. And they're coming out and being like, yeah, but you wore those clothes. He said it's okay that kids do this.
You can wear the clothes. It's like, that's the thing about drag that drives me crazy too, is you have all this like drag for kids. And it's like, guys, drag is an adult thing. We all had a great time at the drag show. Yeah. Why are we suddenly imagining that a bunch of guys who dress up like campy women, like fake beauty pageant women, and have taken on entertainment stage names that are like sexual names for the most part? Why are we imagining that these are the people who should be entertaining and educating our kids? It doesn't make any sense.
It's a horrible Martin
Nothing's
Bailey.
wrong with go to the drag show, have a great time,
Disagree.
get trashed, enjoy yourself. Listen, I'm a little bit of a libertine here and there. So, but like, I never had an issue with that. I've been to plenty of drag shows. I've had friends who do drag, but don't go hang out at my kids' library.
Doing drag
and
is
read
not
them books.
surgery.
Yeah, and don't go reading them books about how they should cut their dicks off.
Yeah.
Well, I think Matt Walsh said it very well when he described drag as burlesque for gay men.
Sure.
It's basically what it is.
And a bunch of fag hacks too. Yeah. You gotta
I haven't heard that phrase in a long time.
It's been a while. I know.
It's great.
It's been a while.
But I mean,
I think it's probably not politically correct anymore to say that.
Nothing's politically correct. As soon as you open your mouth, you're going to get canceled.
We're
anyway,
all
so it doesn't
done.
matter. I mean, you showed up here at the castle. You're over. It's done. I think that it's obvious. It should be obvious, and I really think that the average person, when they hear what goes on when it comes to like surgeries and stuff, they're like, that's not right. That is so far outside of how we treat any other issue that anyone has ever.
Right,
Like, you
yeah.
don't cut up healthy bodies because of psychological issues, whether it be AGP or whether it be dysmorphia or whatever you want to call it. Right? Like, I don't believe the wrong body thing because I'm not a guy that believes in a soul. I think your brain is your brain. You're not born with a man's brain in a woman's body. You're born with a woman's brain in a woman's body, or a man's brain in a man's body, because your brain is part of your body. That's it.
That's the physicalist approach.
Yeah, I mean, that's how
sure.
I mean, I'm not a spiritual guy. That's just my thing.
Well, but also gender isn't the soul. Like, even if you are
Exactly.
spiritual, gender is not the soul.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and but that's where it becomes that whole creepy, weird religion thing that the left
it's
has
a
got
cult.
going on. Yes.
Well,
It's
and-
a cult because there's no forgiveness.
I would say
religions
this-
have forgiveness.
And I would add this in there as well. I do believe in a soul, but also I believe human beings are a body-soul composite, and you are both. It's not like you're a body and you have a soul, or you're a soul and you have a body. You are your body and your soul. The idea that you are something different from your body is a contradiction. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Don't cut your wiener off.
Yeah, please.
That was
I
an
would
excellent
say-
response to the spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't. I mean, no, he summarized
You know
it.
what,
Look,
there
he
is-
put it in layman's terms.
Yeah.
And I think there is something, I think there is a spiritualness to having a sexual life, So I think it's just really a crime to destroy these children's bodies before they have a chance to be involved in loving relationships.
100%. The fact that there are so many people that advocate to do things pre-puberty, so because allegedly it makes it easier to transition, which I don't believe, because there's the stories of Jazz Jennings, like how
That's
her
not a
body
good
is
situation.
Yeah.
That's
it's a
just
train
not a-
wreck because she
That's
went.
not a good situation.
So, anyways, my point being, like, I can't see how, and I keep coming back to the same point. I can't see how endorsing surgery on children, people that their brains haven't even fully developed. Go by what the insurance companies say. The insurance companies know you can't.
You know what? When I was
like
12 years
25 to
old-
rent a car, like that's it.
When I was 12 years old, I knew that I really wanted to do drugs. Like, I was very clear on that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I definitely want to do drugs. And I thought, okay, you're 12, so maybe just like hold off. And I made a deal with myself. I was like, okay, you got to hold off until you're 18, and then you can try drugs.
That's the most mature thing I've ever heard a 12-year-old do. I didn't think about drugs until I was 15, and someone said, "You want to smoke a joint?" And I said, "Yep."
Well,
That was it.
that way, when somebody was 15, when I was 15, and someone was like, "Do you want to smoke a joint?" I was like, "No, I gotta wait." I actually had someone offer me cocaine when I was 16, and
Never
I
did that.
had really wanted to do cocaine when I was 12. This
In
was
New
like
York?
one of the drugs. I'll tell you the story another time.
It's for the after show.
It's definitely an after show story.
All right.
Yes.
Anyways, but yeah, so someone offered me cocaine when I was 16, and I was like, you know what? I have to wait until I'm 18. All the drugs, like LSD, all the stuff. I was like, I'm waiting on that. So I think when you're 12, you have a way to know, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't cut my
You
boobs
might
off.
have. I didn't. I was a spaz.
Shockingly,
I was a alienated, bullied weirdo, but I knew some stuff.
yeah. I mean, shockingly, people don't know what's best for them when they're younger. I
probably
remember a few years ago, I was at a bar with one of my cousins, and we must have been in our early 20s. And the bartender there was a bit older. She was, I believe, in her 50s. And my cousin said something like, "I'm never going to have kids." The bartender goes, "How old are you?" And she says, "I'm 22. And the bartender's like, "Shut up. Like, you're 22 years old, okay? You're not going to sit here and tell me that you're never going to have kids because you don't want to have them right now. You're going to get older, and you're probably going to want them."
I had that experience when I was 22. I didn't want to have kids.
I think many women in this
Happens a
culture
lot.
do. And I'm not saying that that's historically normal, but in this culture, it's certainly normal in your early 20s to not want kids. And it doesn't mean that you're never going to want them later.
Yeah.
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 Historically, I think it probably was odd. to not
Historically,
have kids
very
by 20.
abnormal. Yeah, I actually think, I'm not kidding. I heard that spinster was defined as unmarried by 22. I need to double check on that, but
I was born when my mom was 26, and I remember that being like, she's old.
Oof. I think my mom was 22 when I was born.
okay, so in the 17th century, a woman was considered an old maid if she remained unmarried and childless by the time she reached her mid-20s.
Wow.
Today, the word spinster is more commonplace and is used to refer to women between the ages of 23 and 26. I've never heard it used to refer to women between 23 and 26, but probably because I live in the West. I bet you in other countries it's more shocking to them.
Probably. Yeah.
Could be.
Have we solved all of life's problems?
Yeah, we fixed
we
it.
did.
We got
Yep.
really close.
Yeah.
I think
Found
we
out
can move
I found
on.
out that I'm an old spinster today.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're in your 20s?
Yes.
Good for you.
Clock's ticking though.
Tick-tock,
I've
tick-tock.
almost run out of 20s.
Uh-oh. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Your 30s are going to be great.
You know what? Yeah.
I appreciate the optimism. I don't know with all the banks collapsing and stuff. I don't know if
I
the next couple years.
it's all good. Like there's always.
Have,
it's always
Amen.
change.
Well,
Have
people
you
used
gotten
to
chickens
want
yet?
to get older.
Right.
That's the thing. Like people have always enjoyed youth, but there was a time when gaining age was seen as gaining experience and therefore wisdom. I can't remember who the ancient philosopher was who said it, but no wise man ever wished to be younger.
Yeah, my son was telling me recently he's afraid to grow up, and I was like, "You're going to be an awesome adult. You're going to be great. You're going to get to do whatever you want. You're going to be responsible. It's going to be terrific." And he was like, and I was like, "No, for real. It's going to be really good."
Yeah, well, and it's natural for people to prefer youth or want to be young, but on top of that, our culture puts extra emphasis on it. We have a very disordered valuation of youth. We place it on far too high a pedestal.
I think that's true too.
That's probably accurate.
I've always viewed youth, midlife, and aging as
This is
the
Luke just
human
said.
experience that people are supposed to experience.
Yeah.
So like I remember when I was younger and I'm seeing all these like women they want to act like what I was told is women always want to be 24. When they're younger, they want to dress like they're older. When they're older, they want to put on makeup and look like they're younger. And I was kind of like, doesn't everybody go through life where you have these things to experience? You get old. It's a part of life. I mean, I guess if we invent cures and immortality and stuff, people will just be satisfied with being young forever. But for the time being, it's kind of like, yeah, we're all going to get old. Enjoy it. You get to experience it. Something you will feel and you will learn from and you will see and you will remember.
I just
And
want
then you'll die.
I just want people to know that in chat, Luke said I'm 45, and now people are saying I'm
compliment.
45 in potato years.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess that also works.
Which
Yeah,
is-
multiple people.
28.
Yeah, 28 is 45 in potato years.
What's the math on that?
I mean,
I have no idea. I'm
do
not
the
old enough to be
conversion.
good at math yet. I don't think I ever will be. They say IQ peaks at like 22, so it's just all down here.
as the
Downhill.
old guy at the table, just the only thing that I have to say about getting older is like just keep your body in good shape by like exercising. Because like
I don't wanna-
I'm pushing 50, and I have like I go to the gym and I don't have any of the aches and pains that I hear other people my age talk about.
Are we
Not
the
a-
exact same age, Phil?
I don't know.
Okay.
We might be.
We can compare
We'll talk
notes.
about it later.
What,
But
you won't just say how old you are?
well, I
Is
will.
it on both of your
I'm not
Wikipedias or
worried about
whatever?
it, but ladies,
I don't care.
okay. I'm 48.
Yeah, no,
But,
she's the one who
you're
brought it
older
up.
than me,
What?
but only a little. I'm 47.
yes, I just turned 48 like a couple weeks ago. So.
Okay.
Luke just said I fart dust. Excuse me. I have to. Please continue.
But yeah, like the thing is like if you have to stay active and you have to just don't gain a bunch of weight because you're going to be miserable.
Whoa, whoa!
You will
Whoa,
be.
buddy! I
will be.
hear some body non-positivity coming from over there.
Yes, if
I
you're,
don't appreciate
if you're
it.
overweight, you have a negative body.
Just make sure when you're eating
I'm
your
leaving.
she/her Jeremy's nutless chocolate bar, you restrict yourself because 21 grams of sugar per bar. Only 4 ingredients and soy free. Again, they don't pay me to do that.
They're good.
That is
No, I
very
know.
kind of you.
I guess my point is I cut out sugars today. You know what I had today? We went to there's a market in Potomac, Maryland, and they have sushi grade salmon.
Ooh.
So we just bought a big piece of salmon and we just cut it and ate it raw.
Yeah.
With avocado.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah. I made some spicy mayo. It was like, being a sushi chef.
Yeah, that's a really good.
Healthy.
That's a really good dish.
Very healthy. And and to drink, I had this delicious rise with Roberto Jr. So actually, the Roberto Jr. We just got ours. So for people who are ordering it, they're going to start seeing it already. But it came in the mail, and I immediately was like, "We got to brew some. We got to brew some." Of course, we've had it because we are the ones who like took all the samples and blended everything and then made it. But we're really excited to get it. But yeah, eating healthy,
I want to get some of the whole bean kind because I like to.
grind it yourself.
I do.
Yeah, it's fresher and better. Yeah, we have those too.
Also,
But
it's fun. It's sort of like
it is very fun
I like
when
to
your
press
hand
the
doing
button.
it. Oh, you press. No, but what I'm
like a
saying
little,
is
one of
take
those
care of
little German
yourself.
Things.
Yeah.
Live your best life. Be healthy. Exercise.
If you're going to be exercise is so important. It's so important for your mental health. It's so important for your body. Like I can't stress enough. Go out and exercise.
I didn't
People who
start
don't-
exercising until I was 30.
People who don't exercise don't understand. When you're sedentary, you might feel like this is baseline. This is what normal feels like. Man, that if that's the case, when you start exercising consistently, you feel good all the time.
It's so annoying too because I'll be in a really bad mood and I'll realize I haven't exercised and I'll be like, damn it, now I have to go exercise. And then I feel better and then I'm annoyed.
It's annoying that you're feeling, you're like, man.
I don't know if you guys
Come
are
on.
aware of this, but telling people that they're actually capable of making a difference in their life by making better choices is horrible and unfair and cruel and marginalizing.
I think you're right. We're not affirming people's poor choices.
Exactly. I always see that, dude. There is nothing that makes people more angry than saying, hey, if you're depressed, like you should try getting a better sleep schedule, getting a better diet, exercising. They're like, and you're like, oh, are you already doing those things? They're like, no.
You should do that again.
There, you like it?
That's funny.
You like that the second time? Thank you. That's
Yeah.
how I'm going to express myself more often.
I think you should.
Get the point across.
It should be like that should be a
But that's literally what they do. That's literally what they do. When you
It's a
explain
crazy
them.
day.
They
huh?
get upset.
It is a
weird day.
dang old crazy day. And I told
biggest-
that bank to invest
weird
better, and they're like, "Oh, we're crashing." I was like, "Maybe invest better and don't buy bad assets and give out stupid loans." And they went, "Rah." I don't have the energy for it.
I kind of just feel like with that news of the bank collapse, people are just sitting around shrugging, being like, we know, but whatever.
That's
kinda
what it
like-
feels like to
What are
me
you
too.
supposed to do? And then also you have Congress is going to have to vote to raise the debt ceiling. That's a mess. None of that doesn't seem good to
I just
do
think
it. And
we're
it
all
doesn't
like-
seem good to not do it.
We're all burned out on all of it. Just like we know the system has imploded and there's no need to just say it at this point, buy some chickens and
Sometimes the news day is like that. So I wake up every morning, I scan all the headlines, I look at all of the newspapers, I start thinking about what we should cover.
and then you realize I should buy chickens.
And so, actually, there's chickens next door to me where I live. And this morning, I kept hearing the rooster, and I was like, "Why am I still hearing this rooster?" And then I looked outside; all the chickens had escaped. They were all running over my yard, and I was like, "Wait a minute! Can I just go get one? Like, what do I do now?" I just let them go. And then I was driving over here. There were chickens like hanging out in front of my car. I was like, don't get squashed.
You drive around in West Virginia and you'll see chickens just walking around.
Yeah.
They go do their thing and then they go home. That's it.
They're like the cats.
Same thing in Hawaii.
Really?
With chickens?
On Oahu? Yeah, like you're all over the place.
I've never
great.
been
No
to
kidding.
Hawaii. I would love to go to Hawaii.
It's just, it's really fun when I got my electric motorcycle and I ride it up here in the morning to come to work and I can see Chicken City and there's just some doofy looking chicken just staring at me and I'm just like, isn't life great?
Well, I come over here and they're all like talking to me and I'm like, hey fellas, what's going on?
Yelling about something or other. We got Lil Luke in the Polish one.
He sounds just like his dad.
He's got parted hair, he's blonde, a big nose, he's Polish, and he yells a lot.
Oh, cool. That
Just like
sounds
Luke.
like a pretty interesting chicken.
We should go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because oh boy, do we got a members-only uncensored show for you tonight. Not family-friendly, so you've been warned. DeSantis, I'm going to be vague with, but he's just signed into effect a very extreme form of punishment for a certain kind of criminal and not very family friendly. So we'll talk about that over at timcast.com. Should be live at about 10 p.m. So sign up by going to timcast.com, clicking join us. But let's read your super chats. We got Grofty who says, pack that like button, buck, 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 buck. We love those chickens. All right. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, we appreciate the update and everything today and the work you're doing to get the social club going. My offer still stands. If you need help at all, I look forward to bluffing out a pot win. So Cask Brew Coffee Cafe is underway. It is in development. We got a, what is it called? A voiceograph. One of the things that we have at the coffee shop is this booth you can go into and record a vinyl of yourself. So that's one of the things we're going to have here. It's super fun. You can sing, you can talk or whatever, and then you'll have a vinyl record of that recorded audio. Very cool.
That's sick.
That does sound cool.
So it's happening. It's getting built. And then our coffee, of course, that we're going to be selling there is here. And so we're going to have tons of this at the location. We're going to be carrying, and this is true, we're going to have at the shop Jeremy's chocolate bars. We're going to have those like on the counter for people when you're buying stuff as like an impulse buy. So all of that's getting installed. The plumbing is getting installed. Second and third floor social club, we will probably open really, really, really soon. Because to open a social club, we don't have to do anything. We literally just put a couch and a TV in there and then say, I don't know, figure it out.
I want to come.
Yeah, figure it out. And but what we want to do is we want to have fun things to do. So to start, obviously there'll be video games, there'll be movies. We don't have a liquor license, so it'll be soft drinks, but you can, order, food or whatever and just hang out, creating a community space for like-minded individuals and an overlap where it will be its own private business, but a courtesy to Timcast members to come and hang out. And then the elite members for this special third floor VIP. But we want to do Poker with the Boys, the show on the third floor. And oh boy, am I learning a whole lot about West Virginia law. Pokemon and Magic the Gathering are illegal under West Virginia law. And I'm not being funny. I'm not being silly. The law was drafted before trading card games existed. And so the law literally says any card game or table for any card game. It doesn't define wagering money or making bets. It outright just says card games. And I think it's, like I said, card games are, I think the first card game was Magic the Gathering in the early 90s, but poker laws have been on the books going back 100 some odd years. So they never legalized the right to play any kind of card game. It was always viewed as illegal gambling. So I learned this because when we were researching the law, we were told even playing poker for nothing, like a prop game where everyone gets a set amount of chips, no one spends any money, and you play for fun, is also considered illegal gaming if a private business offers it. And I'm like, well, hold on there a minute. There are a bunch of places that offer a child can go into a game store, give $20, play a card game in hopes to win something of value, which is literally defined as illegal gambling in West Virginia, but they allow it. So that's what we're working on right now. And I spoke, this is really, really funny because I spoke with the government of West Virginia, and I don't want to drag anybody, but the response I got when I mentioned like what's the legal reasoning for these card shops that have Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Pokemon card games where a person will pay money to enter a tournament, play a game which includes skill and chance, and then win something of value. They said, "Oh, but that's all regulated by the West Virginia Lottery Commission." And I was like, "You think these Pokemon tournaments are regulated under the West? You think these children, these game shops are signing up and buying license? They're not doing that." And he was like, oh, I don't know. I think it's just no one knew it was happening.
It's just under the radar.
It's not because if it's not culturally enforced, who's going to? What cop is going to go to a Pokemon card game and be like, card games are illegal in this state?
Sorry, kids. Go on home.
But then so my argument is, what is their reasoning for allowing one but not the other? And there's another super chat I'm going to read later on, and I'll get more into detail, but let's read some more. Omega Rasetsu says, Tim, the Federal Reserve is partly owned by JP Morgan Chase. I don't think Chase will go belly up due to the acquisition. The Fed will bail out Chase. Then the question is, why didn't the Fed bail out First Republic? And maybe for that reason, but that says to me, something shady is going on. And that's just me. If I had money with Chase or a credit card, I wouldn't use it because I'd be scared that something shady was going on. Like they're trying to use banking crisis as a vehicle to implement a central bank digital currency. In that, if they can seize banks and then use federal money to sell them to JP Morgan, but here's the thing. The federal government seizes the bank, then gives JP Morgan money, then JP Morgan buys it from the government. That is not a purchase. That is a government seizure and handing over of a bank with public funds to a private entity. Sounds shady to me.
So here's the thing. So it does sound really shady. Are we at the point of no return? How would you even stop something like this? What could you even do? Like it's going to happen.
I mean, if it were
right?
me, I'd just take my money out of I take my money out of Chase.
I wonder if the point of no return is like the event horizon of a black hole. Like, do we pass it and not know it? Like, has something?
Are we already stretching?
Yeah, is it
Are
already?
we already spaghettifying? Right.
Yep. Spaghettifying.
That's the scientific term. Like sneaky fucker. It's like the scientific term.
And but that's a real.
I know.
term.
I'm just gonna say it a lot.
I think we were talking to Peter Boghossian when we was on the show when we were in Austin. He was explaining, he's like, I'm not saying this is an insult. This is the actual term biologists used. There you go.
Well, if Peter Boghossian can say it on air.
What do we got here? Jason Dixon says, I don't know what y'all did, but the show is so much better. What have y'all done differently? It's just the last week this has happened. I don't know. Something changed. It feels more leprechaun-y. You know what I mean?
Ooh, like a little, there's trolls under the bridge.
I'm a little bit of a leper con man. If you know what I mean?
I have no idea what that was.
I do have leprosy, and I'm a con man.
I thought it meant you
Yeah.
had leprosy as well.
It's both. Yeah,
I
I have
was-
leprosy and I lie.
I was just trying to
to
compliment
people.
you, Seamus.
Oh, well, thank
Should
you.
be on a little island.
Thank you.
I heard
That's
that
I want you all to know that's the nicest thing Tim's ever said to me.
I heard that
and
you
it
went on a
involved insulting me.
I heard you went on a podcast and the guy gave you a potato.
Yes, I was on Pints with Aquinas, and Matt Frad, that dirty dog. Shout out to Matt Frad. Well, I told him to name the episode Matt and Seamus waste 5 hours because literally we wasted 5 hours. I did his longest podcast ever at 4 hours, and then George Farmer beat that time, so we had to beat it, and we should have edited it like 3.5 hours, and we wasted a lot of time.
But he gave you a
don't
potato.
watch it. But he gave me a potato, and it was
wow,
really
that's very
hurtful,
nice.
and I stormed out. Yeah,
Hurtful.
Yeah, it was very hurtful.
If someone gave me a potato, I'd be like, oh, thank you. You know what really always bothered me?
I'd be
that
like,
saying,
can I have two? Then I
you
can
know,
have dinner.
You know the saying, if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade?
Life gives you potato, make vodka.
If life gives me lemons, I go, oh, wow, I love lemons. Thank you,
Yeah.
life. Lemons are fantastic. I
Lemons
can
are
put it on
great.
my fish. I can put it on some oysters or whatever.
You know what's really
Make
great?
lemonade,
Is
I
if
can
you
make
take
tea.
lemons right off the lemon tree, they're sweet.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't have to add sugar. They're just delicious.
Absolutely.
When I was in Greece, I was in Crete, and we were like picking lemons off this lemon tree before these guys came out of the monastery and started shooting at us because apparently we weren't supposed to touch the monastery's lemon tree. I didn't realize. But
Shooting?
whatever. Things happen. But we absconded with a good couple of lemons, and they were delicious.
When life gives you lemons, you say, thank you, life. These are delicious.
When
I
life
like
gives
that. I
you
think that
lemons,
should
you
be on
run
a
away from
shirt.
the man shooting at you.
Whatever. It happens.
All right, here we go. Robert Knight says it's a culmination I've been talking about since January. They're consolidating deposits into a few major banks to make transition to FedNow and future CBDC easier. Also, debt limit cap happens in June. That's what I'm saying. This guy knows. He knows better than I do. I'm like, this
Yeah,
this
Yellen is
banking
saying
collapse
June.
stuff is how they implement a central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
Your bank goes belly up, and then they say, we've rescued your money. Just download FedNow on the App Store, and all of your deposit has been converted to FedCoin, which you can use to make any purchase. It's the same as US dollars.
This is what I'm saying. I hate it, but how can we stop it?
Don't like.
You have the option.
I don't want to give anybody financial advice.
Sure.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I am taking my money away from institutions that are engaged in this kind of practice. I am investing in things like Bitcoin currency, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and investing in land and stuff like that, and trying to have a decent amount of physical dollars as well as gold, silver, and other precious metals in the physical world. Other than that, I'm looking at
physical assets.
Yeah.
but things that are considered to be of monetary exchange, like a silver coin, can be traded with someone as a universal, holder of value. But other than that, there's also items that we may consider to be something that'll appreciate in value. What is a household item that may become hard to get that you would want to have that is good for trade value? So, what is hard to manufacture?
Rice cooker?
Primers.
Eggs. Primers are impossible
What's a
to get.
primer?
Primers
for
for
bullets.
firearms. No, I'm thinking about primers for a bullet.
I was thinking like
cartridge.
incandescent
Oh,
light
boats, I'm
bulbs.
sorry.
Said bullets.
Because didn't Biden illegalize or make illegal incandescent light bulbs?
Oh, I don't know.
Don't we all
Maybe.
prefer the better light?
But I mean, primers
Look at
are
this.
good.
Dan Gingrich said the same thing. The bank crisis is intentional to reduce the number of banks controlling the money so they can more easily institute central bank digital currency and use that to institute more control over the population. You see, these, we got smart people here watching this show. They know what's up. Voice of the People says, serious question. Why invest in crypto if they control digital currency with EO 14067 and control the internet with the Restrict Act, blocking access to markets while fining millions and imprisoning for VPN use and assets? Because you can, with Bitcoin being decentralized, I'm not telling you to buy any, they can control certain points of access, but they can never control the decentralized network which stores your value. And then you can always find some means of connecting to it, or you can store the crypto in cold storage and then physically transfer it to somebody in exchange for something.
They've done transfers with all sorts of mediums. You can literally send like physical mail with the code to change.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just have to send someone your private key if you want to send them Bitcoin. So I mean, you can do all sorts of interesting and creative ways to transfer Bitcoin that are not directly on chain.
Oh, look at this. Donald DeVole says, it gives me a headache anyways, but Barron's reports Bud Light sales fell 26% due to the backlash. Wow. Interesting.
I always get so nervous that like the things I like are going to end up getting caught up in all these dumb controversies, and I'm going to have to not buy them anymore. I hate that.
I have Nikes and stuff that I'm like, I can't even wear these anymore. At least I can't wear them here because I know that the chat will just.
You wore that
me.
shirt that one time.
I know. I got a Nike hat and a couple pair of Nike shoes. I'm never wearing them again.
The Lion says, Phil, I was at work by myself Saturday. Didn't feel like listening to podcasts. Wanted some music. Put on some All That Remains. You got a new fan, bud.
Sick. Thank you. I appreciate it.
There you go. Wishbone says, JP Morgan and Citi won't fail until the dollar does. JP has the military industrial complex and the DOD travel money goes through Citi. They're centralizing it. Interesting.
That is.
Sevi Rose says, Grandpa, tell us again about the Bud Light Wars. All right, children, gather around while I tell you about a beer that everyone hated but fought over anyway. That's why it was so easy to win, because Bud Light was never good to begin with.
No, nobody wanted to drink it.
Now they have a reason to be like, I'm not
Right.
drinking it.
Definitely not.
Easiest boycott I ever did. I quit drinking years ago.
I just don't understand why people drink that anyway.
Wars, like the Black Hawk War. No one remembers the Black Hawk War.
Oh, yeah.
Lincoln was involved in that.
I was at an event, and I had a Yingling. It tastes good. I like it.
I like
delicious.
Yingling.
I don't like drinking all that much, but you know. What do we got here? We got the DD Megadoodoo says the Shimmis and full episode is the one I've been waiting for. Now we need to have James Lindsay and the two of you on together.
Ooh,
Okay,
Yeah,
James,
come on
come
back, Jim.
Yeah, we'll have James.
I want to
on the show
hang
whenever.
out.
Brado Jacko says the goal of the Fed is to collapse all smaller banks so CBDC can be easily forced by the few huge Fed banks like Goldman that are allowed to remain. They'll collapse and consolidate, and then the big banks will collapse, and they'll say, here's what's going to happen. They're hoping that someone like me, looking at our business at Timcast, sees our operating account collapse because our bank goes under, and then they want me to either say, we have to do this, otherwise I can't pay my employees, or cease to exist because we can't pay our employees. That's how it'll happen. It is being forced in one direction. Plan for it accordingly by talking to a financial advisor you trust today, which ain't me.
Buy guns.
Satasha Catergator says, cheers from Vegas. I love poker. It's day 4 of being a Seamus fan. By the way, y'all should check out Speechless by Michael Mills. Oh, well. Are you in Vegas for the World Series of poker? That's I think that's starting nowish or something like that. They were having the World Poker Tour in Florida. That's why that guy joined the ladies event. So that was
kicked ass.
Yeah, he showed those ladies how to play. That's great. The funny thing though is like he was a random guy who just showed up while all these women were actually there to compete.
I mean, the jokes just write themselves.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
Kind of does it that one.
It really
Yeah.
does.
Step aside, ladies.
All right, let's. I want to grab this super chat right here from Yeah But Trump, because you got some fighting words there, sir. He says, Tim, how much did you pay for the Power 9 cards in your decks? How much did you pay for the aces in a deck you don't own? How much thought did you put into a Pokemon deck? Magic the Gathering is battle bots. Poker is throwing darts at balloons at a carnival. No comparison. You're right. There is no comparison. Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. are more chance-based than poker is. I would, as someone who's played Magic the Gathering since I was like 8 or 9 years old, since Antiquities or whatever said it was, barely had any idea what I was doing back then, and has played all the way up till now with a bunch of Commander decks, some that have extremely rare cards. I do not have Power 9. Power 9 cards, for those aren't familiar, are some of the most expensive Magic the Gathering cards in existence, costing thousands of dollars, and they're extremely rare. And so here's my point about Magic the Gathering. In Magic the Gathering, for those that aren't familiar, it is one of the most popular strategy card games ever. It was the first. When the game starts, you draw 7 cards at random from a shuffled deck. The game has spell cards and resource cards. Uh-oh. If you don't draw the correct amount of resource cards, you lose the game outright. Okay, no, not completely. There's something called a mulligan. But the likelihood you can win if you don't have a good draw starts dropping dramatically, to the point where several pro players would just concede the game outright if they had 2 bad draws back to back. In poker, a hand is only a single portion. A shuffle of the deck and a deal of the cards is a tiny portion of the game, and it's free. No joke. You can sit down at a poker table at a casino and spend no money, and they will give you cards. You can then look at them and say, these are not good cards. I'm not going to play this one hand. You can do that about 5 times before you have to actually pay what's called a blind, or you can get up and leave and never pay anything. With Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, You pay the man at the game shop, the card shop, a $20 entry fee. That money goes towards the prize pool. You then cross your fingers and hope you get a good draw. And if you do, you might have a better chance of winning. Then pointing at the power 9, even more random chance. When I was a kid, I couldn't afford to buy any of those cards. That meant my cards were always going to be garbage and my likelihood of winning was extremely low. That's not skill. That's just buying in. The rich kids had better decks. This is why I like poker so much. Having been someone who's played Magic my whole life, it's completely equal footing. And the game is based on whether or not you can figure out what your opponent is doing and whether or not you it's not even about cards. I'll tell you this. I played this weekend and I got a garbage hand and I ended up winning against someone who probably had me beat because I played it better. In Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, which I think are fantastic games and they're skill-based for sure, but my argument is there's just more random chance in those than in poker. Simply put, Hold'em style games, PLO, etc., should be legal, and so should Pokemon and Magic. And I think it's discriminatory that these states, and many states, are allowing one game and not the other. I'll wrap it up there. But I can go into great detail and talk about why I think it shouldn't be that way. We will read some more Super Chats from you. Kelly Ward says, thank you, Libby. They make fun of the products that were a little traumatizing when I was younger. I was 19 before I even bought my own tampons. They have no idea what they're mocking.
Oh, it's awful. It's so awful to have to go into the store and buy tampons and carry them up to the front and you stand there and they're like by your side and you hope nobody looks at you.
BS. I've done it for girls and it's not that big of a deal.
It's not a big deal if you're a fella doing it for girls, but if you're a girl, you're walking up there, you're like, now everyone knows what's going on with my body. It feels weird.
Really?
And they used to do this thing at drugstores where they would like double bag it in a brown bag so that you could walk out and nobody would have to see what you're carrying home with you.
Now you have to pay double for the bags.
Now you have to pay for the bags and they only give you the plastic bags half the time and everybody can see right through it. I find the whole thing humiliating.
The Real Hydro PX with an
I still find it humiliating.
The Real Hydro PX with an embarrassingly ignorant super chat says, Tim does this all the time. He becomes an expert on anything he does. You will always pay if you're small blind and big blind. Tim knows it all. He's completely wrong. When you go to a poker table anywhere and sit down, they will say, do you want to buy the button or wait for it to pass? There's something called a forced bet in poker where it's, let's say you're playing a game, it's called 1-2. A small blind is $1, the big blind is $2. If you want to buy the button, you have to pay $3. That means that you are entering the game right at the point and the button is the dealer button that goes around the table determining whose turn it is and who plays it first and who plays last. If you sit down at a poker table, you can say, I will wait for the button to pass and you pay $0. You will then be dealt hands. When the button comes around the table, each hand dealt, it moves one space. As soon as the blinds come to your right, you stand up and say, I am now leaving. Thank you for letting me play with you. And you've not paid a single penny. Real Hydro, you are completely wrong. And it's embarrassing. It's really, really embarrassing. I mean, just, man, wow, I can't believe how embarrassing it must be for you. All right, let's read some more super chats. What do we got here? Captain Caveman says, Noodles is woke if woke was a person. Yes, embarrassingly woke.
Poor Noodles.
Poor Noodles.
Aww.
Yeah, it was Clapper of Cheeks who said, please look at Noodles' soy reaction to kiss.
Clapper of Cheeks. Love
soy
it.
reaction. Jake Swift says, Atlanta barman here. Someone told me this weekend he'd rather choke down a Miller High Life than have Ultra because of Anheuser.
That's the champagne of beers, isn't it?
Yes. He didn't seem politically motivated, but maybe trying too hard to be masculine. You see, that's what I'm talking about. That's
Guys who drink beers do sometimes tend to try too hard to be masculine. You think?
That's right.
That sometimes
Because if they were really masculine, they'd be drinking whiskey.
They'd be drinking strawberry daiquiris because they'd be secure in their sexuality.
I tell you what, I can't hate on a peach Bellini, man.
I love my peach Bellini.
That one gamer says, is Ian returning anytime soon? I disagree with him, but he's a pretty chill guy. Oh, he's the new co-host for Alex Stein's show. He's no longer here. He's gone. Ian just he left.
He packed his bags. What happened is he had a stick with a handkerchief tied up at the end of it with a couple things in there, and he said, "I'm going."
Hobo pack.
And he left, and he hitchked out there.
Maybe he hopped a freight train.
That's right.
He's got Bocus in the in that little
It's
bag.
just focus. It's like,
And the
paws out.
the gene therapy
Oh my
treatment.
gosh.
I'm just kidding. Ian,
he'll be back soon.
Ian's downstairs. I literally talked to him this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was all excited. He's like, we got to work on stuff, man. I'm really excited. It's going to be great. Real Hydro, he's got a response. He says, if there are two people on the table, they can play for free. No, your claim is only right if the table is full. Duh. That's what I said. The button goes around so you can play 5 hands for free. Jeez, man, these people don't even understand. And then someone mentioned, we got Zilla says, poker rooms charge time limit on games, not rake. It's called time rake. And depending on the table, some do and some don't. At MGM, I just learned this. It's called a 5-10 table. That means the small blind is $5, the big blind is $10. No rake. Crazy. No rake. A rake is when the pot in the middle of money, the dealer takes a portion out for the casino itself. It sucks.
Oh, interesting.
Over a long enough period of time, every player will lose because the money going back and forth will keep getting smaller. And if you play long enough, you will notice everyone's chips are going down. You play at the higher stakes table and they do what's called a time rake. Every half an hour, a new dealer sits down, you pay the dealer $7 and then play the game. Blinds are forced bets. You got to pay those. My point is simply this. At any table, you can play about 5 hands at a full ring without paying any money. And you can't do that for any Magic the Gathering tournament with stakes. You have to pay up front to the owner of the shop. That money goes towards the prize pool and the house takes a cut of it for their profit. That's no different from raking at a poker game. And here's the other thing. In the law, a wager is a bet that someone will win. And this is in West Virginia. This is interesting, which means when you're playing Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Magic, when you buy into the tournament, you are saying, I am buying in to enter because I will win these games and then get the cash prize. In poker, a bet is not a determination that you are going to win. If I've got a good hand or bad hand, whatever, and then I say, I make it $15, I am not wagering that I'm going to win. I am saying, if you would like to continue playing, you must also put forth $15. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know if I have the best cards, and I'm not betting I do. I'm simply saying that's the cost to keep playing. And if someone might say, I don't want to keep playing, you win. And you can have the worst cards and win in that game. Not gambling. And I don't think Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic should be regulated as gambling either. I'm simply making the point that the legal arguments are nonsense. But let's read more. What do we got here in the old super chats? Rusty Razor says, Tim, 2 of the 3 big bank failures are San Francisco regional banks. Maybe it isn't the banking system that's failing. Maybe it's the tech sector. Yeah, but the First Republic, this was, billionaires. Like, people were buying big assets on crazy loans. So it is Silicon Valley. I get it. All right. Brandon DeVore says, as a Magic player, in Tim's defense, look up how many Magic pros have gone to poker. It's not even gone to. Tons of Magic the Gathering professional players are simultaneously professional poker players. And having played Magic most of my life, I think poker is a better game because there's less what we would call variance. People call it gambling, saying it's a game of chance. No, it's just variance in the game. But if you know how to navigate the odds of the game and what people are going to do and when they're doing it, then I look at Magic the Gathering with like pros have a win rate of 51% to like your average poker pro whose win rate is 90+%. And I'm just like, come on, man, don't even bring that stuff to me. And I like Magic the Gathering. It's fun. I got a whole bunch of cards. Nukatako says you post big blind to get cards in a cash game. Only if you want to buy the button at first or if you wait until the big blind comes to you. Like I said, you can wait for the button to pass, play cards for free, then get up and leave. Because people do it. I don't know, whatever. Michael Otis says, Tim, have you heard of the artist Ren? His song Hi Ren is by far one of the most emotionally moving songs I've heard. Highly recommend a listen. Very cool. Robert Knight says, Tim, I just put the rest of the puzzle together. They'll use a bank bail-in to pay off bank debts, then issue the Fed CBDC as a replacement for the depositors. It's going to start to unfold over the summer. That's what I'm saying. All right. Real Hydro says, Tim, can you name the top female chess player? No, I can't. How about the top male? Magnus Carlsen. That's easy. Come on. Stop looking down on women. We are not the same. Yes, there's a small handful of top female chess players, but they don't reach the same levels as men. There's a small handful of top female poker players that there's some that make it and some that don't, but it's overwhelmingly male in like all of these sports. I don't know what the point trying to be made is, because I'm not saying women are bad for not being the best at these things. I'm just saying men tend to win. Therefore, there's a reason why we have a women's league and a men's league. Robert Bradbury says the greatest thing about New Hampshire is the wild turkeys. We have wild turkeys all over our property. It's great. They walk around and the dudes, their wings like fold down and their butts puff up, but then they can also shrink back down. I feel like city people get confused when they see wild turkeys because they don't understand. They just look like regular birds. because they're used to seeing the Thanksgiving pictures of the big turkey with its tail all spread out and puffed up and looking big.
Well, in New Hampshire, those are wandering around.
They do here too, but
Yeah.
when the males shrink back down, they puff up to look big and threatening, and then they'll shrink down, and turkeys fly.
Also, I'm
You see a
pretty
flock
sick
of flying
too.
turkeys. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, turkeys fly, man.
Yeah, last summer I remember seeing turkeys wandering around the streets in New Hampshire.
MJ,
Driving around.
There was a turkey that tried to get into a fight with its reflection in my car one time in New
No
Hampshire.
way.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
They're stupid as hell.
MJ's got the good super chat right here. Says, "Hey Tim, where can we play poker with you?" So, for the past couple of weekends, we have been in MGM National Harbor, and before that, it's Maryland Live. We used to play all the time at Hollywood Charlestown until I stacked a guy in such a way that he got so angry. What happened? So Hollywood Charlestown it's the West Virginia casino. He tried bluffing me. I guess he kept raising his bluff on the, he raises pre-flop. I guess he had nothing. I don't know. Then he raises on the flop, and I'm calling him. I had ace king offsuit, and so I see this flop, and it's like, I think it was just like low cards, all different suits, and I'm like, this guy doesn't have anything. He's just throwing money at the table trying to scare me off. So eventually he shoves his whole stack in. It's $300 because it's a $300 game. Those are the buy-ins, and then I'm just like, I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, I got ace king. It's like the best non-paired hand, and I don't think he made anything, so I call. Then he's like, I don't have anything. He flips over nothing, and I say, I got an ace. And then they shove all his chips my way. He got so pissed off, he leaves. Well, he lost all his money. He comes back half an hour later and starts cussing me out like crazy. When I asked them to just move the guy and get him out of my face, they told me no. They weren't going to do anything about it, and too bad. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to play here anymore. That's insane. And I think the issue is their poker room has been like kind of shrinking and falling apart. I could be wrong about that, but it's like a lot smaller and no one plays there anymore. So they're kind of desperate to retain players. So they were like, please don't fight. We're going to let him keep doing this. And I'm out. So MGM National Harbor is a lot of fun. And I also noticed a lot of people there know who I am. So it's really cool. People were like, oh, hey, man, and they're like fist bump me or something. So that's a whole lot of fun. And yeah, I appreciate the support. So you might see me there on the weekends if you're ever in the DC area. It's a Maryland casino. Ooh, Maryland Live is cool, though. It's all these Maryland casinos. All right, we'll grab one more here. Elias Muniz says, is it possible that the JP Morgan First Republic buyout has something to do with the Jeffrey Epstein JP connection? Government may have told them they will sink their own ship to stop people from finding out. No, I think it's this central bank digital currency thing. I think it is. All right, everybody, we got a crazy members only uncensored show coming up. So go to timcast.com, become a member, watch that. It's going to be up in about 10 minutes, and we're going to be talking about some crazy stuff DeSantis has done to people who are bad to children. And it's, good for him. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Libby, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, I'm Libby Emmons. You can follow me on Twitter at Libby Emmons, and you can subscribe to The Post Millennial and Human Events at thepostmillennial.com/subscribe. We have a lot of great people. Jack Posobiec, Andy No, Charlie Kirk, Savannah Hernandez, Katie Davis Court. I'm there every day, so come check it out.
I'm Seamus Coughlin. The only thing I want to plug tonight is St. Joseph. It's the Feast of St. Joseph the Worker. If you all are interested, I'm going to be praying a novena to St. Joseph for the working class in this country, in this very tumultuous economy, for the unborn, for whatever difficult times that lay ahead to help our country return to God, and for our enemies, people like Dylan Mulvaney and other trans ideologues, that they will see the light and be converted.
I think Trump said it better when he said, Merry Christmas to everybody, even the haters and the losers.
I love that.
But no,
you try.
Let's pray for them, and let's also, of course, we were joking earlier, but pray for the people at Vice who are out of work as well.
Today, I'm Philip.
Oh, by the way, I'm so sorry. The link is on my Twitter. If you guys want to go find my Twitter, the link to the novena.
I am Philip Remains on Twitter. I'm Philip Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Today is Victims of Communism Day. It's May 1st. About 100 million people or so died because of communist countries, and today is a day that we remember the victims of communism. So I wanted to point that out.
And I'm Serge.com. I also dislike communism a great deal. It is not cool. Just a quick reminder, communism is not cool. That's all. Argue with me on Twitter at Serge.com. Peace, guys.
All right, everybody, we will see you over at timcast.com in about 10 minutes for the uncensored members-only show where maybe you will be calling in and talking to all of us and hanging out. So thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all there.